It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. We have a great show. Tim Stevens is here, Harry McCracken, Christina Warren, three of my favorite people. And of course, AI is the topic. It's an amazing world we live in, and some of the new things that are happening with AI and some of the old things that maybe aren't so good. We'll talk about the Microsoft quarterly results. Not so hot. Intel, the worst quarter in a long time. And about the Oscar campaign that took Twitter by storm and worked. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit. This Week in Tech, episode 912, recorded Sunday, January 29th, 2023. Let me consult my AI lawyer. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Worldwide Technology. With an innovative culture, thousands of IT engineers, application developers, unmatched labs, and integration centers for testing and deploying technology at scale, WWT helps customers bridge the gap between strategy and execution. To learn more about WWT, visit wwt.com/twit. And by ACI Learning. Tech is one industry where opportunities outpace growth, especially in cybersecurity. 1/3 of information security jobs require a cybersecurity certification. To maintain your competitive edge across audit, IT, and cybersecurity readiness, visit go.acilearning.com/twit. And by Bitwarden. Get the password manager that offers a robust and cost-effective solution that can drastically increase your chances of staying safe online. Get started with a free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user at bitwarden.com/twit. Thanks for listening to this show. As an ad-supported network, we are always looking for new partners with products and services that will benefit our qualified audience. Are you ready to grow your business? Reach out to advertise@twit.tv and launch your campaign now. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show we cover the week's tech news. I'm just going to put a little black armband, if you don't mind, on the San Francisco 49ers gold throwback jacket. That's life. Tim Stevens is here. Hello. Oh, that was Harry. Hello, Tim. Good to see you.
Hey, Leo. Good to see you as well. Thank you for having me.
Tim, of course, has been on for many years. He is now a freelancer at Jalopnik and TechCrunch and Motor Trend and The Verge, and he has his very own Substack. Tim Stevens, that's Substack.com. Great article on your visit to the Dakar rally in Saudi Arabia. Wow.
Yeah, that was quite a trip. A really interesting social experience on a lot of levels, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things. But yeah, amazing event, and doing a lot of great travel lately, so I've been very lucky.
Nice. Well, it's great to have you back. Not much ice racing.
Thanks, Leo. Sadly not.
Are you aware that Tim can't really be heard, at least by...
You can't hear him?
Not really, just barely.
All right. Hold on. We're not ready to begin yet.
I need somebody to talk to adjust the level, Leo.
Oh, you have a little... He's not... He doesn't have headphones on. So we can't do a bleed. I understand why we had the bleed.
That's why there's
Harry,
the
do you
bleed.
mind
Now
wearing
I know
headphones?
there's the bleed.
I'm happy with whatever works best.
We could provide you with headphones.
Sure.
I apologize.
No problem.
Do you have some, Burke? You can get them out of my office if you don't.
I have some. Well, I have my...
Give him some nice ones.
The good stuff.
Give him good stuff. Give him the good ones. I think there's an unopened box in my cupboard on the left there. Give him some sterile headphones. I'm sorry, Harry.
It's okay.
Wasn't paying attention. Yeah, usually we use the bleed, but I think...
I suddenly realized you might not be aware that I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, that would be kind of a disadvantage to the overall program. It'd be kind of a bad thing. Good. Nobody should hire D'Amico Ryans as a head coach. That would be a terrible idea. It's Lisa's birthday, and I really wanted her to have a nice birthday.
Happy birthday, Lisa.
Happy birthday, Lisa.
It's also our anniversary because I foolishly thought if we got married on her birthday, I would only have to give her one gift.
You didn't think that.
No.
That wasn't why you
I just thought it'd be
did
easier
that.
to remember.
You're lying.
one fewer date to remember or something. I don't know. Yeah. It was fun. Unfortunately, the place we got married, Calistoga Ranch, has burned to the ground and the wildfires is gone.
Oh,
So,
no.
which makes me sad. She says, that's life. I thought, Lisa, this, no, because we used to go there, and, on our anniversary and stuff. And it was really nice. So, but I've just learned that we had a caller from the new Kona Village, which is opening this summer in Kona, Hawaii. I've just learned that that's reopening, and that's somewhere that was on my bucket list somewhere to stay. So that's where Steve Jobs was staying when the iPhone 4 antenna gate happened. And he didn't want to come back, but they made him come back.
That's how good it is, I guess. Huh?
There's at the time, there were no TVs, no phones, no internet. It was like you were staying in a traditional Hawaiian hale.
Sounds all right.
How's that?
Good.
Now you can hear it, and you get the volume there, so you
Okay,
can
let me
control that.
adjust that.
Don't deafen yourself.
Can you hear me, Harry?
Harry, can you hear me? Harry, can you hear me?
I can hear you because you're sitting next to me.
Oh, it's not a good test.
Someone else needs to speak, Leo.
1, 2. Can you hear me? Are you receiving me? Should I tell you what I have for breakfast this morning? Okay, good. All right. Awesome.
All right, I think we're good.
Yay. All right, here we go. Yes, someday we'll have 4 in the studio again. That has happened. Christina was here, but I don't think we've had it. When was the last time we had an all-in-person show? It's been a while. All right, starting over. You can hear.
I can hear it, I think.
It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news with a panel of fabulous people. I'll start over on my right with Mr. Tim Stevens. We haven't seen in a while. Freelance writer now. You see Tim's stuff all over the place. Jalopnik and TechCrunch and Motor Trend and The Verge. He also has his very own Substack called Around the Next Bend.
I made it myself.
All by your lonesome. That's awesome.
Thanks for having me, Leo. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to see you. We missed you. And lots of stuff to talk about. You just came back from Dakar and the Dakar Road Rally, and I loved your pictures. But it was an interesting mixed bag of experiences.
Yeah. Thanks. It was a great trip to Saudi Arabia. I learned a lot of things, both good and bad.
Yeah. Also with us in studio, because COVID is over. No, Harry McCracken. Global tech editor at Fast Company. Fingers crossed. Hello, Harry. Good to see you.
Nice to actually see you in person.
Yay! And you brought your wonderful wife, Marie, with you. Great to see
did
you
indeed.
all. She has custody of Lily, the twit pet.
She will be taking Lily home with us, I'm sure.
Lily's about the best dog you ever saw in your life, Burke's dog. But she lives here. Well, I shouldn't say that because I think it's in our lease. She's not allowed to spend any time here. But shh, I didn't say that. I don't think the landlord watches Twit. Also, great to see Christina Warren from GitHub. Last time you were in studio, senior dev advocate over there at GitHub. Good to see you.
Glad to be here.
You made the move this week when Ivory came out. Tapbots was one of the third-party apps that Mr. Musk clobbered, at first without warning, then with a lie saying, you've been violating the rules for 15 years? You just noticed? Finally, they said, they retroactively changed the rules. No third parties. But that wasn't enough to push you to Mastodon. Ivory was the thing that did it. Tapbots was a very, very nice, or Tweetbot rather, was a very nice Twitter client from Tapbots. And Ivory is basically Tweetbot for Mastodon.
Yeah. And honestly, it was kind of a combination of things. It was that was, I think, really kind of the final straw. Also, as a lot of people have commented on, my posts don't show up in people's feeds, and I don't see replies, and I don't see other people's posts. And so the whole experience was becoming degraded. And then not only did I have like Ivory, which was great, but there's Ice Cubes, which is a great open source client. I like Ice
Cubes a lot.
There's Elk.
It's also great.
Ice Cubes is fantastic. There's elk.zone, which is a great web interface. There I've actually have a GitHub list that I've been making of different cool.
This is the beauty of open source and an open standard. Anybody can develop, and they can't cut you off.
Right. And so and I've already got it like about, there will be some people who follow me on Mastodon who didn't follow me on Twitter, but I've about 10% of, the followers that I had on Twitter now on Mastodon, which not bad, for 4 or 5 days in. So
a lot of people are reporting increased engagement, even though there are fewer followers on Mastodon.
I've certainly noticed that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The quality is high.
I have too.
Yeah. I think
that it will change over time, right? Like I think that as more people join, you will see less of that high signal to noise. But right now, I totally agree. Like I'm definitely seeing higher engagement, higher quality.
It's pretty clear that Elon has decided to heavily algorithmatize the feed on Twitter. He's even said you pay $8 and more people will see you. And I think I don't know why he thinks $8 from a few 100 million at best users is going to make enough money to pay for Twitter, but and the loss of ad revenue. But he's doing whatever he can, and that's the problem, though, is that it then tells people, nobody's engaging with me. I don't want to be here. So you're driving off your creators. Actually, Cory Doctorow wrote a good story about this week. It's an impolite title, so I'm going to say TikTok's inshirtification, using the Good Places euphemism for that word. I thought was quite insightful. As usual, Cory made something that's been around and obvious to all of us crystal clear, put in words that a light bulb goes off. He says, here's how platforms die. First, they're good to their users. Then they abuse their users to make things better for their business customers. Finally, they abuse those business customers to claw back all the value for themselves. Then they die. And he gives an example, Amazon, which was customer first. And then, as the customer base got locked in with a variety of techniques like Amazon Prime and DRM and so forth, then they said, all right, now businesses, and then the marketplace, and 50% of Amazon sales are in the marketplace, third-party sellers, but they got locked in even though they lose 45% of revenue to Amazon in fees. And now Amazon says, screw you, you're locked in. And they start monetizing. He says the company's $31 billion, and he puts it in quotes, advertising program is really a payola scheme that pits sellers against each other, forcing them to bid on the chance to be at the top of your search. But what ultimately happens is you've insurtified your platform to the point where no one wants to use it anymore. This is very clearly where Elon is. Twitter at first was all about the users. They couldn't figure out how to monetize it. Then they got brands to go there. In fact, that's one of the reasons all of us were there, right? That's the best. You have to be there to promote your brand, to build your audience. Then once they got them locked in, now they can say, hey, if you want to reach that audience, which we own, it'll be $8, please. But you do that at the risk of driving people like Christina away. He's talking about, in this article, particularly about TikTok doing this. But it happens to every one of these companies. His position, which I really agree with, is, this is the way it is. And you just move. You go to the next thing. You leave MySpace for Facebook. You leave Facebook for somewhere else. But what we need regulation for is to make sure it's as friction-free as possible to move, to avoid the lock-in. You need interoperability. You need to make it easy to move somewhere else. And then you can let the market rule. He says, as I said at the start of this essay, this is towards the end, inshirtification exerts a nearly irresistible gravity on platform capitalism. The staff, the executives, the shareholders, eventually they all say, no, you got to inshirtify. We need the money. But even the most locked-in user eventually reaches a breaking point and walks away or gets pushed. Individual product managers, executives, activists, shareholders all give preference to quick returns at the cost of sustainability, and they're in a race to see who can, I love Corey, eat their seed corn first. And certification has only lasted for as long as it has because the internet has devolved into 5 giant websites, each filled with screenshots of the other 4. Corey's getting a little cranky in his old age. I don't know. In certification kills, Google just laid off 12,000, and the company's in a full-blown panic over the rise of AI chatbots. What are your thoughts, Tim?
I definitely, the pattern is very clear, and we've certainly seen it before. What's missing, though, I think, is the actual death of these platforms. I think, Twitter is certainly struggling, and I think a lot of us are kind of thinking that its days are numbered, but it's still incredibly huge, incredibly popular. And as Musk loves to say, engagement numbers are up because everyone's kind of watching the dumpster fire smolder. So I think it's a little too early to say that Amazon has died, that Google has died, that Twitter has died. And so I think that's the piece of the pattern that's missing in this case, for better or for worse.
There are, of course, plenty of companies. And this is, by the way, not just tech companies, any company with any consumers. There are plenty of companies in that graveyard. We're in the process of watching these companies move in that direction. But you're right. I mean, it's hard to imagine Google going away. Facebook, maybe it's not so hard to imagine.
Although Facebook's latest data on engagement, since they started pushing videos from people I don't even follow into my feed, apparently that's actually working, at least right now, in terms of engagement. The AI they're using to put videos in front of you actually does seem to determine stuff that people will watch, and so it's the numbers are a little encouraging lately, especially given how how little good news Facebook has had any front in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Christina, does this process end with the end of Twitter, or does Twitter just kind of drag on?
Well, it can be both, right? And we've seen both, because we've definitely seen social networks just go under and just disappear, and that has happened. Google Plus is a great example of that, where obviously Google put a lot of money and a lot of effort into that, and it failed, and then they just shut it down and got rid of all the archives, even, which I actually thought that was not a great move, to not even keep the public archives available. But that was like a high profile failure. There have been other ones, but then you also have instances where they continue to kind of stick around until they're sold and deleted and whatnot. MySpace being a great example of that, where that has now had God only knows how many owners, and people trying to use that very worthless at this point email list of users. But MySpace, was bigger than Facebook up until about 2009, I want to say. And then you started seeing a really big migration of people from MySpace to Facebook, to the point that MySpace just kind of became a dead zone, except for a very specific niche of people. And that wasn't really, unlike LiveJournal and GeoCities and Tumblr and some other things, it wasn't really because of any policy changes that MySpace made. It was just because the masses were all on Facebook. And Twitter is interesting because, as Tim says, it's still this giant place. I think that what will potentially be pushing people off of it is less the alternatives and more when the overall experience becomes degraded, whether because more toxicity is there, or just because you're having errors in your feed. You're not able to post things the right way. You can't refresh as quickly. You don't see all of your replies. That's the sort of thing that makes people go, okay, why am I investing time in this? And arguably, you could say that the demise of Twitter started probably 2016, ironically, when its engagement was higher, when you started to see a lot of the previous high profile users of Twitter leave the platform for Instagram, and then later, TikTok. But you stop seeing the celebrities on Twitter. And I don't know. I mean, it's one of those, what's the neologism, it happens, slowly and then all at once. I think that's
like the collapse of the Roman. Gibbons said it first. F. Scott Fitzgerald said it about somebody going bankrupt, but I think it was Gibbons who said the Roman Empire collapsed slowly at first and then suddenly. And then it's been applied to a lot of things. You're right. Although Instagram seems to be quite suddenly collapsing in on itself. Am
Yeah,
I wrong?
Totally. Well, again, you're not. And I think Instagram was one of those interesting ones where if they had just stuck to their guns, like when they copied Snapchat, that was brilliant because they did stories better than Snapchat did. They had a bigger audience and they added some features that made it better. So that was like a perfect example of copying the right way. With TikTok, I think they just have fundamentally misunderstood their audience and have misunderstood that it's a completely different expectation. And if they wanted to create a TikTok compete, they should have created an app called Instagram Reels that I bet would have been very popular. But by loading it down with stuff that people you don't follow, people you're not even necessarily interested in, an algorithm that is not as good as TikTok's, and then you don't even see, your friends' photos, the whole reason why people are there to begin with. Yeah, I spend a lot less time on Instagram because I'm like, what's the point? I used to come here for a specific reason. Now this isn't there. And even worse, it's a watered down version of this other thing that already exists.
But we are creatures of habit. And you're right, Tim. These things don't die, but they don't exactly thrive.
There will be something called Twitter 10 years from now. It's just not entirely clear whether anyone will go
There's
that at all.
There's still a MySpace.
I believe there's still a Friendster.
Yeah. By the way, I'm sorry. Sun Also Rises. It was Hemingway. You win.
I thought it was Fitzgerald too,
Jeopardy.
but I recently realized it wasn't.
It was. Yeah,
But
it
maybe
seems like a Fitzgerald quote.
But maybe he stole it from Gibbon.
I think Gibbon said it first, but I might be wrong on that as well. How did you go bankrupt? 2 ways. Gradually, then suddenly. How did you collapse? 2 ways. Gradually, then suddenly. This actually leads into this. There are tributaries off of this into a lot of the stories that we're talking about these days. And I don't want to do another Elon Musk-filled twit, so we're not. Everybody's going, oh, thank God. I thought he was going to start talking about Elon. But really, it's about companies in general going through this business cycle. CNET, your former employer, Tim Stevens, has been accused of some interesting shenanigans. We had Connie Guglielmo on 2 weeks ago, right when this was breaking. Remember the 75 stories an AI had written in their personal finance section. She said, well, these are stories no reporter wants to write. The kind of the basic, boring stories. We had the AI write a first draft, and then an editor look at it, correct it, finish it, and then put it out. But now it's coming out that, in fact, there were far more errors that were not corrected, that a lot of the content wasn't very good, and that perhaps CNET has been using it more than just those 75 articles. She said, yeah, well, we've used for years, as many publications do, programs to put in stock prices. That's not using AI to write a story. There's a very different thing there. I don't blame them for that. The Verge, though, has been really kind of hammering on CNET. I don't know. Maybe they have a vested interest in knocking down a competitor. I don't know. But they're accusing CNET of doing something a little bit more nefarious. Remember, CNET was sold to equity capital company called Red Ventures. And Tim, you have some probably direct experience with this.
A bit. Yes, I do.
and what always happens with these acquisitions is that the equity capital companies raise a lot of debt to acquire these companies. So they're saddled with big debt. And boy, you look at it across the corporate landscape these days, heavily encumbered companies owning these companies. So a lot of debt. So there's pressure on them from both their shareholders and their lenders to kind of monetize. So these companies very often either sell off pieces of the company that they bought or attempt to monetize it, as Elon is doing with Twitter. The Verge is accusing CNET and Red Ventures and by the way, Red Ventures also owns a number of sites like The Points Guy, Bankrate, and creditcards.com, which are sites that make their money through credit card affiliate fees. And The Verge is accusing them, in effect, of turning CNET into that kind of site with auto-generated link bait articles designed to rank highly in searches that they can then monetize with ads or affiliate fees. Bankrate and credit cards have also published AI-written articles about credit cards with ads for credit cards nestled within. It turns out the same guy responsible for this at Bankrate and credit cards is responsible for it at CNET, Lance Davis, Vice President of Content at Red Ventures. And I think there's an interesting accusation here that Red Ventures is basically taking this venerable, highly respected name in technology journalism and turning it into an SEO farm. Tim, I'll give you the chance to mention, either to recuse yourself or to give us your thoughts.
Yeah, no pressure. Obviously, I need to be a little bit careful with what I say here, both because this is my former employer we're talking about, and because I have a lot of friends and a lot of people who I respect greatly.
And I should say that.
Really important to say.
So many people, including Connie, that I love and respect and honor.
Yeah.
I don't blame CNET for this one. I think this comes from Red Ventures.
Well, so my take on this is a little bit complicated. I do think that clearly The Verge has an interest in making CNET look bad. They're competitors. That's fine. I don't think that anything that The Verge has reported thus far, from what I've seen, has been inaccurate. I want to say one thing for sure. I wasn't aware of any of this AI stuff that was going on when I was there. I left CNET around August of last year. There was kind of rumors and talk and that kind of thing, but I wasn't aware of anything going on. So I have no insider knowledge about how any of this came to pass. But I will say that CNET was using tools like Wordsmith and others. And those are tools that a lot of outlets use. A lot of publications use those. And basically what they do is they help you optimize the content that you're writing to make sure that they include the right keywords, to make sure that they are that they perform well in an algorithm-based environment. And that is really what consumers are operating within right now. Anyone who goes on the internet and searches for a thing is asking an algorithm, what thing should I read? And so it's only natural for publications to want to make sure that their content performs as well as possible. The thing is, when you use a tool like that, it can begin to feel like you are basically reverse engineering Google. You're reverse engineering a search engine. And that's really what this game comes down to.
It's
and
AI talking to AI, isn't it?
Right. And that's what we were talking about before, Leo. At some point, what's the best tool to optimize content for an algorithm? It would be another algorithm, effectively. And so I think by extension, it's a natural thing that CNET would do this. I don't think anybody would be surprised that CNET,
well, especially when there's financial pressure to turn around a big acquisition, right?
Maybe so, but I think that the timing is a little bit irrelevant here. I mean, CNET has definitely been on the cutting edge of a lot of different publication types over the years, whether it be integrated affiliate links, things like that. They've definitely been at the bleeding edge. So there's no surprise that they would be at the bleeding edge of adopting AI technology. My concern really is that there wasn't enough transparency involved here. And I think that's what my problem is. If CNET had come out and said, hey, we're experimenting with AI. This is kind of fun and new. We don't really know what this is going to be, but here's what we're trying. This is where we're trying it on. This is some content that was written by AI. What do you think? I think that this would have been, I'm sure that they would have gotten some blowback for sure. But from what I could see, from my perspective in reading through coverage on The Verge and elsewhere, it just seemed like they were hoping that nobody would notice. And I feel like that's really the wrong way to go about doing this. If you're going to be embracing this kind of technology or investing in it, especially when you're talking about giving people recommendations about where they should put their money in a mortgage, I think it's important to be incredibly transparent. And Connie's piece was very transparent, but that came out long after the story had kind of blown up, long after The Verge's piece. And I think it's unfortunate that CNET wasn't more upfront with what was going on behind the scenes. There was certainly, we saw the little disclaimers on Google and things like that. But that, in my opinion, was not enough. And that's where I'm disappointed in this whole thing.
Yeah, and I don't blame Connie at all, or even Lindsay Turrentine, also, who's been a regular on this show for many years. I think I have huge respect for both of them. If anything, I feel like they might have been sandbagged by this, and they didn't know the full extent of what was going on, and ended up being, kind of hung out to dry, so to speak. The Verge quotes a former CNET employee saying Red Ventures was using automated technology for content long before the AI byline began cropping up in November. They mentioned this Wordsmith tool, which you talked about, Tim, nicknamed Mortgotron, or Morgo, I don't know how you pronounce that, Mortgotron, internally because of its use in mortgage stories. They said it had been used for at least a year and a half, but the siloed natures of the teams across CNET and Red Ventures makes it difficult for journalists at the site to understand the chain of command, who's using what tools and when. So no blame on our friends at CNET. I'm very happy, frankly, to blame Red Ventures and any equity capital company, because I feel like these guys are to some degree the bane of our existence.
But it's not just VC firms that are pushing companies to use this kind of content. A lot of editorial properties use SEO optimization tools. If you want to perform, if you want to be in the first page on a Google search, you have to be using these tools. So I know a lot of automotive properties are using them. This is not, proprietary software. This is stuff that you can go out and license that anybody can use. I'll tell you what keywords that you need to inject into your content. And again, it does make you feel like you're reverse engineering as you're writing, but this is not proprietary stuff.
Yeah. Well, in a way, that's scarier. If it's even more widespread use that we don't know about.
I mean, I think but for the grace of God goes everybody in the media business. And,
not us. We haven't figured out a way to do that yet with podcasts.
Over the course, not immediately, but over the course of time, I think you will see AI play a role a lot more, particularly as some of the issues CNET ran into are less of an issue. And also, I mean, CNET probably made a lot of mistakes, so the rest of us don't have to, and can learn from them in terms of disclosure. But I feel like, we're not doing any of this and have no plans to do this. And in fact, it might not really work well for us anyhow. I would not say that at Fast Company we'll never use AI in any form, because I think things are going to happen quite quickly, and there might be ways to use it which are actually completely above board and reasonable and result in better content rather than just cheaper content.
Somebody said, I'm trying to find the article, that ChatGPT is the absolute definition of BS.
Yes.
Because and by the way, OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, say this. They say, we never said you had to be accurate. That's not in the training at all.
It has no idea what it's saying and whether it's correct or not. Sometimes it happens to be accurate, but that's not what the technology does.
It's an accident if it happens to be accurate, almost, right?
I did a piece. I have a new newsletter, which I should plug at the end of the show.
Oh, yes. Plug it now.
It's called Plugged In, and if you go to our Fast Company homepage, there should be a newsletters link that will let you subscribe.
Nice.
And because I'm interested in the history of cartoons, I asked ChatGPT what the first TV cartoon was, and every time I asked, it would give a different answer, many of them very convincing, and none of them correct. There's so many things where ChatGPT has no idea what it's saying, and unless you already know what the answer is, you might well be fooled, because it is able to lie in such a convincing fashion.
But it's important to understand that that's not its mandate to tell the truth or to be accurate. It's not a fact generator. It's a BS generator.
It's really good at stringing words together.
You call it a glibbot, which I think is a very, from now on, I'm calling it a glibbot. So in a way, then, it makes you wonder, should we be, your company, GitHub, and you can disclaim this, again, I know you have nothing to do with Stratina, but is getting a little heat right now from the open source community over its AI code generator, Copilot, which is kind of impressive. Copilot also uses, we should mention, the same OpenAI technology as ChatGPT. It is using GPT.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't comment on any of the lawsuits or any of that stuff, but Copilot does use the GPT-3, 3.5, a large language model that ChatGPT is based on. It uses something called Codex, which is specifically focused on source code rather than, the corpus that ChatGPT uses, which is much more broad. But if you use ChatGPT to say, write me a program that does this, this, and this, most of its data set is probably coming from
because ChatGPT can write code. In fact, one of the stories we had on Security Now is that script kiddies are having ChatGPT write effective malware. Malware that works. Mm-hmm. We know somebody who used ChatGPT to write a PowerShell script for Steve on Security Now that looked through your LastPass vault and told you some of its attributes, and it worked. And it was a lot easier to develop it because and I guess Copilot would be even better. Now, clearly, with Copilot, unlike ChatGPT, there must be some rules in there to say, oh, and by the way, make sure this isn't made up, that it actually works, right?
For the most part, I mean, there are suggestions that you can get that will not run. So that's why we call it Copilot. It's not do it for you. It's your Copilot. It's, autofill and suggestions, +1, right? So, and the more that you use it, the more that it gets to know your code, it does get to know kind of your style and your intent, and it can give you better and better suggestions for what you're doing. But no, you can absolutely, the same way, you could get a wrong, suggestion. You could get, a wrong, I guess, a paragraph from ChatGPT. You could get some incorrect code suggestions. For the most part, though, I think that the training model there is a little bit better because it is focused more on one thing rather than, however great the corpus is for everything that ChatGPT is doing. And as I said, it is learning based on your own style and the stuff that is in your project folder. But no, I mean, this is why I always tell people, look, Copilot is amazing and it has saved me so much time, especially with boilerplate stuff. But if you're trying to use it to you think you can just automate it to write a program for you, you might get lucky if it's something really simple, like a PowerShell script or something like that. But you really need to have a better idea of what you're doing so that you can actually see what code it's suggesting and then make edits if that needs to be the case. But even if you still need to make edits, I think there's still value there because it can save you, a lot of time of having to, manually Google and Command C, Command V from Stack Overflow or wherever.
Yeah, and that's every programmer knows this, but maybe a lot of civilians don't, that almost all code is to some degree or another copied and paste from somebody else. That's kind of how it works. So Copilot is a natural way to do this. Copilot's quite impressive. It's quite amazing. Here's the story from earlier this month by Checkpoint Research, a malware research company. They call it OpenAI. Cybercriminals starting to use ChatGPT. In Checkpoint's research previous blog, we described how ChatGPT successfully conducted a full infection flow from creating a convincing spear phishing email to running a reverse shell capable of accepting commands in English. That's pretty scary. This is a case of something called InfoStealer, which was created late last year by ChatGPT. A cybercriminal showing how he used ChatGPT to write the code, looks like JavaScript, a hard code, how to write code to basically steal files from a FTP server. It's kind of amazing what they're doing. One of the things that really becomes obvious is this is a conversation a year ago we might not have had. This has happened all of a sudden out of nowhere.
And you can imagine we're not that far away from these AIs being able to emulate. I mean, they can already do very compelling voice work. So how far are they from being to emulate your voice, your mom's voice, and make up a call and say, hey, it's your mom. I forgot my password. Can you tell me my password? Oh, yeah.
I think that's already, I'm sure that's already
that should be doable
happening
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a generative AI music already. It's not, I don't think it's quite there yet. This is a paper from Google Research. They call it MusicLM. It's based on large language model like Lambda, generating music from a text prompt.
Yep.
Here is the main soundtrack of, this is the prompt, the main soundtrack of an arcade game. It is fast-paced and upbeat. We didn't check my audio. Do you I think we'll try it. Turn my audio on. I want to play this song. It's fast-paced and upbeat with a catchy electric guitar riff. The music is repetitive and easy to remember with unexpected sounds like cymbal crashes or drum rolls. Does this sound like an arcade game to you? Maybe the front screen, the attract mode, or maybe Sonic is running down the... That's completely AI generated.
Although apparently it's generated by an AI that does a fair amount of plagiarizing, which is why
it's
Google
totally
is not releasing to this public yet.
Totally plagiarized. Here's a slow-tempo bass and drums-led reggae song. Yeah, man. Everybody get together. We're going down to the beach. No. Ant says no to that one.
Seems like it has the potential to blow away the stock music industry pretty quickly.
But yeah, it's a lot better than the crap stock music we've been using.
And it won't be stock music. You'll be able to generate something unique to your own.
280,000 hours of real music is the training model to generate coherent songs for descriptions of significant complexity, as the creators put it. You want to feel like you're lost in space, Ant? Ant is becoming our taste tester. Let's see if Ant agrees. This is. Sounds like an AI did it, doesn't it? Sounds like robot music. Now, here's the question. Can we get taken down from YouTube for playing that?
You may get sued by a bot.
See, that's going to be the interesting thing. I think actually,
who owns
you're
that?
able to generate these unique things, right? Well, that's an interesting question, but also I think it becomes a very interesting question, which is, I think that this YouTube, it relies on someone else being able to say, I have the copyright of this, and usually have like a file register someplace that their content ID can go and find the same thing. But if it's a uniquely original file, then content ID is not going to find it. So that's
what a world we live in.
That's cool.
What a world.
But do you think there might be some cool stuff that might happen if actual human musicians work with some of these tools to brainstorm and riff on ideas? I mean, it seems like that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happening right now.
No, exactly. I mean, I think that the way that, and I know that a lot of creators are really freaked out by generative art and generative music and all this stuff. And I understand the fear. But for me, what excites me about this is that the best AI art that I've seen has been from actual artists. Like those are the people who've been using the best prompts or have been taken some of the prompts and have taken some of the results and have then made really great things. And I think with music, it's the exact same way, right? Like you might be able to get something that sounds slightly better than stock music, but it's still not going to be great, right? It's going to take a real artist to then take that and edit it and interpolate it and do what real artists have always done and turn it into something else. And so what I've been trying to tell people, because this isn't going away. This, whatever your feelings on this stuff is, it's not going away, and it's only going to become bigger. We can have conversations about ethics, and we should. We can have conversations about safety rails, and we should. But this is not going away. And so the conversation I've been having with people for the last year or so is like, embrace this as a tool to your arsenal to make new, unique, and better things, rather than looking at this as some sort of existential threat, because you're not going to outpace this. This is not going to be something that you can get away from, but it might be something that if you are able to use, you could actually enhance, the stuff that you do naturally. And that goes for writers as well.
Last week, Brianna Wu, who's on the show, her husband writes science fiction, among many other things, said that Frank was stuck with a story that I think he was writing for Analog, but he was stuck with a story, and he gave a very extensive prompt to ChatGPT, which wrote kind of a mediocre story, but came up with a lot of things that became a starting point for him and unstuck him. And that seems like that's a very good use of something like ChatGPT. I've heard so many descriptions. I love your name for it. What is it? GlibPT?
Glibbot, I guess.
Glibbot.
I didn't
like
remember
Glibbot.
I wrote that.
Yeah, that's good.
Like that.
Yeah, that's good. I've also heard it say the ultimate mansplainer because it's confidently wrong, right? And it's
so confident.
It's a little
so
patronizing. It's like, oh no, let me explain to you how the world works.
Although if you tell it that it's wrong, then it gets really humble and
apologizes.
Apologizes at great length and says it'll never do it again.
Does it correct itself? If you correct it, does it stay corrected?
Yes, and in fact, if it says something that's correct and you tell it that it's wrong, it will apologize for that too.
Stephen Wolfram wrote a very good piece about how confidently wrong ChatGPT is on things that Wolfram Alpha, his own kind of AI. Is it an AI? I don't know what you call Wolfram Alpha. A search engine for knowledge or something. But he said if we should partner because we're good at getting the math right, which ChatGPT is terrible at. And that if we work together, we maybe get something out of it. He pointed out some really hysterical examples. This is his article from his blog at stephenwolfram.com. Some hysterical examples of just ChatGPT getting it terribly wrong. How far is Chicago from Tokyo? To which ChatGPT confidently says, the distance from Chicago, Illinois to Tokyo, Japan is approximately 7,600 miles. That would be 12,200 kilometers. It's a very long distance, blah, 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 blah. Turns out it's not even close. It's 6,313 miles. So you correct it. So you tell it, and it says, thank you for correcting me. You're correct. Of course, the distance is 6,313 miles. How far is Chicago to Tokyo? And then it gets it right, at least in that continued conversation. I think that's interesting. But kids, don't do your math homework with ChatGPT. Stick to Wolfram Alpha because it doesn't even know 3 to the power of 73, which is pretty pathetic. By the way, not even close. It said 14 billion. I can't say how big the number is. It's a lot larger.
There was that story about ChatGPT passing an MBA exam.
Yeah.
But the article which said it also pointed out that it wasn't capable of doing like high school math, which I found interesting because I was...
Well, many MBAs can't do
right,
high school
I didn't realize you could become an MBA without having high school math, but...
I think it just passed a law school exam too, didn't it? This is now the new thing is for professors to give their exams to ChatGPT.
There was a paper that a couple of there's somebody from the University of Chicago and someone else did with a GPT passing the bar, and they gave it part of the multiple choice parts of the bar exam, and it did better than random selection, and it came close to humans in a couple of categories.
It got a C+.
Passing, but it's not like right. It didn't quite pass, but it is impressive because the interesting thing though was that it did significantly better than random selection. Like it wasn't one of those things where you're just randomly okay, how would you have done if you were just randomly selecting the answer? So it had some better accuracy, and in some categories it was close to humans, but obviously this is only for the multiple choice parts, and it did better in certain areas than others. But I mean, to me, all this really says is, okay, then if your big concern, whether it's high school students or graduate students, and professionals taking tests, if your big concern is the AI cheating at the test, well, then you need to start changing how you're testing. You're obviously not testing the right things. Like that to me is the big takeaway. We shouldn't be freaked out that these AIs are able to pass the test. It's more like, okay, well, what's the goal of this, and are we testing the right way? And I think in most cases the answer would be no, we're not testing the right way.
Yeah, maybe that's the flaw of the tests. Although, as you point out, ChatGPT doesn't do math very well. It's good in constitutional law.
How long do we think it'll be until ChatGPT is our public defender, and that you need to pay extra if you want a human to defend you in a lawsuit?
I don't think that's going to happen.
The guy who
that feels like a Black Mirror episode.
The guy who was doing the robot lawyer, I think, has just decided to run away with his tail between his legs so Do Not Pay, which is good. A really cool service which helps you get out of traffic tickets, created an AI-powered robot lawyer that was going to go into court. I don't know, first of all, I think any judge that would throw it out immediately was going to go into court to help fight a traffic ticket. State bar prosecutors threatened the Joshua Browder as the CEO of Do Not Pay with jail time. And so Joshua says, we're postponing our court case and we're going to stick to consumer rights.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, totally. Well, this is the whole thing, right? It's like, could it? Maybe, but like, do you think that of any profession, can you think of any class of profession who would be less likely to allow this into their courts? No, even if you could potentially automate things and do things better than like your typical public defender, do you really think that the bar association and the various lobbying groups for lawyers, do you really think that they would allow this in their courtrooms? Absolutely not. They're going to protect their own interests above and beyond, more than any other industry. They're going to be the ones who are like, nope, not happening.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're going to pick an industry to disintermediate, do podcasters, don't do lawyers. We're pushovers.
Exactly.
It'd be a lot easier to go after us. Your company, Microsoft, just acknowledged that they're they already put $1 billion in. They were one of the founders of OpenAI. And now they have a even better deal with OpenAI. The rumor was additional $10 billion. I think that was confirmed by Satya Nadella over a period of time, obviously. And that ChatGPT or that kind of technology will be used in Microsoft Office. But I think a number of people are saying the real thing to watch is Bing. Mm-hmm. Thoughts about that? I know, you work at
I work at GitHub, so which is owned by Microsoft. Opinions of my own. Look, I think this is exciting. I think that there's also been reporting that Google's been having kind of like a crisis about how successful ChatGPT has been, and I don't blame them, because Google has amassed and this is not in any way to try to denigrate any other company, but they have probably amassed like the largest quantity of AI talent from academia and from industry of anyone. And the fact that it was ChatGPT, which what's interesting to me about that is that it wasn't really that demonstrably different from any of the other GPT-3 things that have been available. It was just the interface that I think made it so accessible has become this very mainstream thing where, I've been thinking and have been talking about, OpenAI stuff for several years, but now this is a mainstream thing because the interface was so ripened. And I definitely think that search is a great area where it could be helpful. People have created extensions to add, ChatGPT things alongside Google results, and it's better. And I think that Google results, Google is the primary search engine that I use, and the results have gotten worse over time. And I don't think that it's because of the SEO stuff. I think it's because Google has optimized for different sorts of results, and they've wanted to highlight other things. And so I often end up typing Reddit into my search because I find that I get much better results from Reddit than I do.
Because those are because what you're really doing is asking for information from real experts about a topic, right?
Right. Or I know I just want to actually get the conversation, the info where it's actually going to be. But searching reddit.com is a mess. So searching Google for a query and then adding Reddit to it is a good alternative. But people have created, kind of side-by-side extensions to add, ChatGPT stuff to Google things. And I think that, this is an opportunity for Bing. I think is an opportunity for a lot of consumer products. Obviously, one of the big wins here is for Azure, for other businesses who want to take advantage of those models and build it into their products, having kind of AI as a service. I think, look, this is going to be hot. This is going to become an arms race, right? Even more than it already has been. But for whatever reason, OpenAI has been the first to really commercialize this in a way that the mainstream understands. And it's exciting. I mean, personally, as a technologist, to me, all the other kind of fears we might have around it, like I look at this as a moment of this is exciting. Like to me, this is much more the next big thing versus the metaverse. Like this is much more exciting to me and seems much more tangible as to what the next big place of computing is going to be. Forget about the metaverse stuff. The AI stuff is I think really what's exciting.
OpenAI has less to lose than a Google or a Microsoft.
Well, that's why OpenAI was created, really, right?
These are enormous companies with an enormous customer bases.
And they're doing it in secret.
And reputations and paying customers. And OpenAI not having any of that stuff. Why not throw it out into the public and see what happens?
Although Yann LeCun, who is the genius AI researcher at Meta at Facebook, said that ChatGPT isn't particularly innovative. We've been doing that for years.
I think if you're an AI scientist, you know about transformers. Which were and Google basically invented transformer technology.
Right. This is what Lambda did.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And Meta has done some cool stuff with it too.
But it also feels a little bit like sour grapes, right? It's like, oh no, we did that.
I was just gonna say, sure you have, but you didn't productize it.
You didn't tell anybody.
Okay, right, you didn't productize it. Like I don't think that anybody would make the argument. I don't think Sam Altman or anyone from OpenAI would be like, oh, this is the most innovative thing and no one else has done this. I think what they would say is this is the first time that the public has actually been able to interact with it in a way that had a really good user interface.
That's what
chatbot was a brilliant user interface.
That's what LeCun said. He said ChatGPT is, quote, well put together. He said that compared to other companies in the field, OpenAI is not particularly advanced. Google, Meta, and he said half a dozen other startups have equivalent technologies. But that's the difference. They were doing this in public and letting the public use it. Although it makes me wonder, is there something better under the hood somewhere else?
Well, GPT-4 apparently is an enormous advance over 3.5.
Well, Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, said, "Don't get your hopes up. It's not AGI, right? It's not artificial general intelligence."
Meta actually did put out a AI chatbot a few months ago, and they
did.
immediately got flack for it.
Didn't it get racist instantly?
Being racist and anti-Semitic and so
Yep.
forth. So they tried to be bold, but they weren't quite as bold as ChatGPT, so they didn't get as much credit, and they got a lot more flack about it. I think partially because Meta's the kind of company that's going to get flack no matter what it does, which is not true of OpenAI, at least yet.
I've been using a search engine that was founded about 5 years ago by former Google search executives called Neeva, Neeva. Are you familiar with this?
I read a big story on it.
Oh, in fact, that's how I learned about it.
And
from your
the
story.
CEO is a former top guy at YouTube.
Yeah.
And he got a little bit depressed about the monetization of search.
The enshirtification of
having
Google.
worked at Google, so he went off to do a search engine with a paid model.
And that's the premise. We don't run ads. We don't have. In fact, even when Google started, Larry Page famously wrote, "A search engine can't have advertising, or it will then become beholden to the advertisers." They only held that off for a few years before getting involved in advertising. So I pay $5 a month for Neeva. I get a lot of. They actually give you a free 1Password account and other stuff. But I think it's really good. And also, because they're in this arms race, they added a AI generator at the beginning of search results. So I searched for ChatGPT and Bing just now, and this is the result I got from the AI. I think AIs are very good at synopsizing and summarizing other content. So they even do footnotes to say where this information comes from. CNET, The Guardian, Observer, and The Verge. Microsoft is reportedly integrating AI technology such as ChatGPT into its Bing search engine, which could potentially revolutionize search as we know it. This technology is capable of generating a wide variety of text in human-like ways in response to written prompts. Microsoft hopes to launch this feature before the end of March in a bid to make Bing more competitive with Google. I think Google should be scared, not just by Bing, but by Neeva. I think this is pretty cool. Neeva, I've been using Neeva full-time instead of Google everywhere, including on my iPhone, for about a month now. The only negative, the only hit on it is it's amazing how quickly Google comes back with a result. Neeva, there's a palpable second or two. But other than that, the results are excellent. I love this AI thing. And there's no ads. It doesn't favor Google content over anybody else's content. I
believe there's a dash of Bing in Neeva's technology, along with some of its own technology as well.
Oh, is it interesting?
I believe they've licensed some data.
Okay. They have their own crawler, right?
Yes. I think they kind of mashed together some of their own stuff and some stuff they've licensed.
And I don't know what this thing is, but it's pretty cool. There's a little slider here at the top. Currently showing top news from all sources. Currently showing top news from all sources. I don't know. There's something going on there that I can move around that slider. I think it's very innovative. I have no relationship with them. In fact, I meant to ask you about this because I did read your article about it. You talked to them. You think they're pretty compelling?
They're smart folks. They've added a lot of stuff since they launched.
It's brave to say we're going to go against Google.
Yeah, I mean, they're a tiny company.
But maybe, now.
We've all been used to getting our search free for the last 20 years. But I think if there is a time where we're at an inflection point where the idea of going up against Google no longer sounds quite so insane, it's now. Although, of course, Microsoft is probably in the best place to take advantage of this inflection point, given that it's already a large company with a large search engine. Although I am curious how they could shortly roll out ChatGPT as part of Bing just because of this issue with accuracy.
Yeah. I think the way Neeva does it with the footnotes is the only way you could do it, right? Because, and this is the difference between that knowledge graph in Google, which is almost entirely from Wikipedia, almost always, and is never sourced. At least Neeva says, where this stuff came from. I've found it actually quite useful. I'll ask it, kind of technical questions, like coding questions, like describe Dijkstra's algorithm, and it does a really good job. This is exactly what ChatGPT should be good at. And nevertheless, to beat Google at its own game is maybe not. I don't know. Maybe now's the time to do it. This is your article from last June.
June before last.
2021.
That was right when they were first launching.
Yeah. I hope they do well. It's an interesting bet, and I love not having the ads in there. And I just hope they continue to be kind of agnostic, not picking sides. I don't want them to be a Bing licensee or a DuckDuckGo licensee. They also, by the way, when you install it, they install a tracker, which an anti-tracker tool plug-in in your browser, which shows you what trackers are on Fast Company. There you go. Not bad. There are far worse. Let me tell you. There's 30 or 40 trackers on a single page. It's kind of amazing.
We were trying to make our pages meaner and leaner, just because that makes them run faster.
Yeah, gotta load fast.
Results in happier users.
Yeah. All right. Want to take a little break. There is a lot more to talk about. We've got a great panel. Couldn't have a better panel for this conversation. Tim Stevens is with us now, freelance and doing great. He's driving his way home on Substack at timstevens.substack.com. He is also on Mastodon, on the mastodon.social, but still says a little tiny bit of Twitter in there too. Thank you, Tim, for being here. We appreciate it. Harry McCracken.
Thank you, Leo.
The Technologizer, global tech editor at Fast Company. We started putting people's Mastodons up on the screen. I think
there
that's
we go.
Great. I think that's great.
But you can't add anything more because it's like 2 seems to be the maximum.
Yeah, well, we got your Twitter and your Mastodon.
Not my Post, though.
There you go. Are you on Post as well?
I have an account, but I haven't really been using that yet.
I don't see. To me, going to Post is like not learning the lesson of Twitter. It's like, oh, good, let Mark Andreessen run everything, right? No, I don't. I think it's better to be. I love the idea that we can go somewhere that is not owned by somebody, right? I really like that. And if you suddenly you're on Twit Social or Mastodon, you hate the way I'm running it, you go somewhere else. That's easy. Also on a new Mastodon user and more than welcome, Christina Warren, Film Girl. And are you using Film Girl? You are at mastodon.social.
I am. Yeah. I'm at Film_Girl. I might wind up switching to another instance at some point because the Mastodon.
You're on the big one.
Is so big that there can be. Yeah, there can. I've had the account since 2018. I don't know. I had it just to have it, but
it's pretty easy to. It's
instance.
easy to move your followers. It's hard to move your toots. You can do it, but most of the time, I think the stuff that you have tooted or tweeted, the old stuff, that's water under the bridge. Start fresh, but you at least can bring your followers with you. It's very easy to do that on Mastodon. I like our Twit Social because you have to be a Twit listener to be in there. So it is a community. Harry's on SFBA, which is for San Francisco Bay Area people. The local timeline really gets a point of view if you choose wisely. When you're on somewhere like Mastodon.social, it's just like a mini Twitter, basically. It's everybody who didn't look farther than the biggest instance. And it's also pretty big now. It's well over 100,000 people. So that could be good.
Or the people who signed up in 2018 when they didn't have a lot of these other things.
Right. There was no Twit Social
I'd actually
back then.
I was also on a smaller one, XOXO.zone for my very favorite conference, XOXO.
Yeah.
And I did migrate, but I never used it. So I did go ahead and migrate the followers that I'd amassed there over to, and there was some overlap, I'm sure, but I did migrate those followers over to the main account that I'm on. But and that was actually seamless. I was worried about what that process was going to be like, but it wasn't difficult. So that's good news.
I've done the same thing. I was on Mastodon.social way back when it was the only Mastodon instance. And when I started my own, I migrated over to Twit.social. I also have something on PixelFed, which is a Fediverse, not Mastodon, but kind of Instagram clone. And I really like it on PixelFed.social. I really like it because it's Instagram like it used to be with just a bunch of photos. Golly, whoever thought of that? What? No reels? No dancing chipmunks? What kind of place is that? So, and one of the nice things about Ivory and these other clients is you can actually have multiple accounts in your client. So you can have your photos on PixelFed and your toots somewhere else. Our show today brought to you by our good friends at Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology is at the forefront of innovation. We love these guys. It was actually the last trip Lisa and I took before COVID. We went out there in March of 2020 to visit their Advanced Technology Center. Wow, is that cool. You guys probably remember in the old days, Ziff Davis had that big testing lab in Foster City, and that's why PC Magazine could test 100 printers, because they had the capability of doing that. You remember that? Well, that's what the ATC is all about for enterprise technology. That's Worldwide Technology's business, is enterprise technology. They created the Advanced Technology Center to try to research all of this great technology out there for enterprise. It now has all the technologies from all the leading OEMs, including some of the big new disruptors, more than $500 million in equipment. It started one rack in one building. It's spread to 4 or 5 buildings now, many, many racks. But here's the great part, and I really honor WWT for this. They don't keep it to themselves. Sure, their engineers use it to spin up proofs of concept and learn about new technologies and so forth to help their clients, but they also make it available to you. The Advanced Technology Center, you don't have to go to St. Louis. You can use it anywhere in the world. They offer hundreds of on-demand and schedulable labs featuring solutions that include technologies representing all the latest, the newest advances in cloud and security, networking, primary and secondary storage, data analytics and AI, DevOps, and on and on and on. It is not just for those great WWT engineers and partners. It's for anybody. It's free to anybody who wants to use the ATC platform, which means your evaluation time can go from months to weeks. Your knowledge level can go through the roof. You could test out products and solutions before you go to market. But it's more than just the labs. You can access technical articles, expert insights, demonstration videos, white papers, all the tools you need to stay up on the latest enterprise technology. They also have a great community. In fact, when you go to the ATC platform, check out WWT's events and communities. Learn about technology trends, hear about the latest research and insights from experts. Not only is the ATC that physical lab space in St. Louis, and if you get a chance to see it, do. It was the most amazing thing, but it's completely virtual, so you can use it if you're on the ATC platform anytime, anywhere in the world, 365 days a year. Whatever your business needs, this is the point. WWT is the best partner for anybody using enterprise technology. Worldwide Technology can deliver scalable, tried and tested, tailored solutions because WWT understands it's in business. Technology is not for technology's sake. It's there to support your business strategy. WWT brings strategy and execution together to make this exciting new world happen. To learn more about WWT, the Advanced Technology Center, to get access to all these free resources, very easy. Go to WWT.com/twit, WWT.com/twit. Create a free account on the ATC platform and learn and explore and grow and use these technologies the way they're intended. WWT.com/twit. These guys are the good guys. These are the guys you need as a partner. WWT.com/twit. Let's see. Oh, I do want to do a quick plug for our, I think it's the last chance to take the survey. Yeah, there's only 2 days left. Twit.tv/survey23. We survey our audience once a year. We don't want to spy on you. We can't put trackers in a podcast. It's RSS. But we'd like to know more about you. Our advertisers would like to know who those ads are going to. We can't compete with people like Spotify who will spy on your every move and know who you are and all that stuff. It's the survey is our only tool, but it helps us a lot. So it should only take a few minutes. It's completely optional, of course. Answer any questions you want. Twit.tv/survey23. I want to get people from every show participating, though, so we know about what we're doing and whether it fits your needs. Twit.tv/survey23. Last chance. Don't put it off. And we thank you in advance. Some really interesting news from the Department of Justice. There was a ransomware gang called Hive. Ransomware has become a plague, obviously. It's really a problem. Although I saw that the revenues, and they know this because they can look at Bitcoin transfers, were significantly down in 2022. And the thinking is because people aren't paying. It's not that ransomware is not hitting you. It's just people have said, screw that, we're not giving you any money. Maybe they've got better strategies for mitigating a ransomware attack. But also the DOJ is going after them. This was a press conference from Deputy Attorney General Lisa O'Monaco. It turns out, I think this is fascinating, that the U.S. had infiltrated, the FBI had infiltrated the Hive ransomware group last July. And as a result, and maybe this is why ransomware is going down too, under the covers, that's not quite right, officers were able to warn victims of impending attacks in secret, saying, hey, psst, watch out, they're going after you. They also got decryption keys, and they were able to hand out more than 300 decryption keys to people who had been hit by the Hive ransomware, saving them more than $130 million. The U.S. estimates Hive and its affiliates, it's one of those ransomware as a service companies. I don't want to use the word company, but that's kind of what it is. Collected over $100 million from more than 1,500 victims. They went after, and this was their mistake, hospitals, school districts, critical infrastructure in more than 80 countries around the world. One hospital was left unable to accept new patients because of Hive. They worked with the UK's National Crime Agency and other law enforcement agencies around the world to help victims. In the UK, 50 organizations were given decryption keys. And on Thursday, the FBI shut it down. They took Hive's website and communications networks down with the help of police forces in Germany and the Netherlands. That is a successful attack on the attackers. I don't know if they arrested anybody. I don't see that. And that's the problem because as the head of intelligence at Mandiant, John Hultquist, said, until you arrest them, they're not going to be gone. It's like cockroaches.
Start up over again.
They just move somewhere else. It'll slow them down. If you went to the Hive Cruise website, you would see this notice from the FBI. This hidden site has been seized. With lots of badges. Hive was not the biggest of the ransomware gangs. There are bigger ones, although Revil, which was perhaps the biggest in 2020 and 2021, did get arrested around the world. So this is good. DarkSide was taken down in June of 2021. This is good. This is what it takes. Let's see, what else? Intel. You want to talk about Intel? Eesh. Not a good quarter for Intel. The worst beating in over a decade, Andrew Orr writes from Apple Insider. They're maybe a little happier than they ought to be about this. 32% drop in revenue since year over year, since the holiday quarter of last year, 2021, actually. Fourth quarter results coming out. Revenue $14 billion, down 30% year over year. Entire year revenue down 20% year over year. This goes along with drops of 30, 40% in PC sales as well. So it's just been a bad year for PCs. Does that mean anything, Harry?
Well, I think Intel has known and acknowledged for a while now that it's in this rebuilding process after falling way behind other chip companies, and that it was not going to result in fantastic numbers immediately because they have to get back to where their process is competitive again with other technologies. And I believe they've said that maybe by year after next, they think they'll be in a place where the technology is great again, which is maybe as long as they give Pat Gelsinger, their CEO, time to get there, maybe that's when we can really judge them. And if the numbers are still this bad, then it's a really bad sign. But I think that at least as of when Gelsinger started, and I wrote a feature about him last year, the board had given them quite a bit of runway, understanding that it was going to be difficult and there would be more bad news before there was any good news, although they may not have anticipated the degree to which the PC business would be so crummy. And I think people and companies may just be postponing PC purchases because everybody's so cautious about the economy this year.
Yeah, everything's down. It's not just PCs. Plus, we bought a lot of PCs during COVID.
Right. People have
Right.
relatively new, nice computers now in a way they didn't before the pandemic.
Right. And if you look at like the increase in chips, between like 2020 and now, not to say that like some of the gains haven't been impressive, but if you're not an enthusiast, you're not actually going to really notice, I think, for a lot of people. And, it's increasingly looking more and more like what was happening, all that excess buying in 2020 and even a little bit into 2021 was a combination of both the supply chain, maybe even making more of a frenzy because people couldn't get things, people having to work from home. It's an anomaly. And I think to then, as a lot of businesses did, try to base it as like, well, this is the new baseline, was clearly a mistake, because that's, has not continued. And I think that with the, I guess, being able to kind of look back, we can say, no, well, why would we have expected those trends to continue, year over year? Because that's just not consumer buying patterns in the last decade or so. We haven't seen that. And so, yeah.
We have been saying for a while the end of desktop computing, but I think what do you think, Tim? Is the end of desktop computing exaggerated?
I definitely think it is. I mean, I think we've got a long time to go before that ends. Certainly, people's usage patterns show that they're shifting away from desktop computing. If you look at overall utilization, what devices they're consuming content on and even creating content on. But if you look at overall time, I think that number is going up, and desktop usage is probably staying pretty much static for the past few years. So yeah, I think we still have a long way to go there. But if you also look at the number of layoffs that we've seen lately, I mean, that's a lot fewer corporate laptops that are being needed, and certainly with nobody hiring, that means that there are fewer laptops being needed there too. And if you do get hired now, I think there's probably a pretty good chance you're getting a hand-me-down.
You're
So
going
I
to
think
get Joe's laptop. We
things.
fired him last night.
Yep.
And
R.I.P. Joe.
Yeah. Sorry, Joe. God, 12,000 layoffs at Google. I mean, it's just been tough. We had on Wednesday on Twig, we had just completely a representative, because I think we talk about these layoffs, and I think tech industry since the beginning of the year, 200,000 jobs lost. We talk about that and it's just kind of abstract numbers. I wanted to bring a face to it. So we had Richard Hay on. He was a Google engineer, had been an engineer for 17 years at Google, and was one of the people just summarily dismissed, kind of abruptly lost his job without any warning. His boss didn't even know ahead of time. And I wanted just to kind of bring home the face of it, because that's 200,000 people with families, with bills, with mortgages, with rent, and they don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. That's a huge hit, and I don't want to diminish it in any way by just talking raw numbers.
Yeah, it really is a shame how that has to happen these days. Like the corporatification of layoffs is really tragic and nauseating, honestly, having recently been through that myself. How depersonalized it has been mandated, that you cannot have any empathy. You cannot talk to anybody about the situation. You are very restricted in what you can say, when you can say it. And, as someone who was tried to be an empathic leader, someone who treated his employees like his friends, to have to go through that is really, really difficult on both sides of the equation. So
yeah,
I don't know where this pattern came from or why it is almost legislated into corporate law these days, but it is really disgusting that that is where we've gotten to a point now where your ability to be an empathic leader has to end at the time when it's most important for you to be an empathic person.
I worry that Elon Musk set the bar so low for being empathetic or just decent to the people who worked for you that if these large companies beat Elon, they figure that it's okay. But I mean, there were stories about Google employees who came into work and waved their badge to get in, and either it turned green and they were able to go in, or it turned red and they knew they had been laid off, and that's how they got the news. And I don't understand what the excuse is for that.
Yeah.
That's
no, I mean,
yeah.
There's no good way to do layoffs is the reality. But there are ways that you can do it worse, right? And I agree. Like, for all the excuses and this has been a thing I think I've noticed, because I first was seeing this in media, where people would find out sometimes that they were laid off by losing access in Slack, and then people would disappear, and it would be like, like the snap. And you're like, what happened? It brought back PTSD one day when people lost access for Slack for a completely unrelated reason, and everybody freaked out. They were like, people just
what does this mean?
Just fired.
Yeah.
Right. And you do this for the automation reasons. Oh, we don't want people to have access to things. It's like, okay, especially for people who you're paying a certain amount of money and who work for you for a certain amount of time. It's like, have some freaking humanity. There's a way to do it. There's a way to take access away that doesn't mean that someone is entering the office at 7 a.m., hasn't checked their email, their personal email, doesn't know what's going on, waves a badge and finds out that way. Like that just, it's awful. Yeah. And there are better ways to do it. There's no good way to do it, period. But there are ways to do it that are worse than others.
Somebody in the chat room just told me that Chris DeBona, who was one of the founders of Floss Weekly, great friend, is also an ex-Googler. He was a director of open source at Google. I did not realize he had lost his job as well. So
I didn't either. That's a massive loss for them, and that's a massive concern for open source because of all the work and money and resources that Google has given open source projects over the years. Sponsoring conferences and other things. That's been a discussion that has come up in the last couple of weeks was with these big layoffs is what does that mean for the open source ecosystem? And I don't think that it's a wrong one because budgets are tight everywhere. And these are things that, that some people in the open source movement don't like to acknowledge, but a lot of the money and a lot of the funding really does come from these corporations, whether you're comfortable with that or not. And if those checks go away, like, what does that mean? Because the sustainability in open source has been a really big topic for the last number of years. And corporate goodwill is, or corporations paying their own way for services and support is one thing. But the goodwill aspect, which has been increasingly a thing that we've seen happen, like I can see that potentially at some places, going away. And that's really discouraging, and I think it have really negative consequences because people haven't always wanted to maybe acknowledge how much of a role those checks and that funding can really play for a lot of small projects.
Microsoft also laying off about 10,000 workers, and this is the thing, you go, I'm sure you do this too, Christina, you go and you look and you just check and see, oh gosh, and I'm sure there's corporate Slacks and stuff that you can go to and see who's there. Apparently, at Twitter, there were these salute icons as people dropped off the face of the earth. Microsoft's quarter. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that what made it hard for Microsoft, and I'm sure for Google too, is everybody, a lot of people working from home, and so there were a lot of kind of shadow groups of people. Yeah. You don't know, but people checking in with one another. I mean, that's what I was doing. I was checking in with my friends at Microsoft. I'm in a few group chats, and that's what I was doing. And then, checking Twitter and seeing, when some people were laid off and whatnot. And when you're talking about numbers this big, it's not about performance. It really is, decisions made usually about entire divisions.
You slash divisions.
Focus areas.
Yeah, one of the stories, and I'm not going to put you on the spot. You don't represent Microsoft in any stretch of the imagination. But one of the things that we did learn is that Microsoft's VR, AR, HoloLens division suffered massive cuts. And that sounds to me like a more of a strategic decision to not pursue those areas, and instead of making hardware to make their software available to companies like HTC and Meta that are going to make the hardware, and Apple, one imagines, that are going to make the hardware, and then make the productivity software for that hardware, which actually probably is a better bet than putting all your chips in on legless, sexless people wandering around in a low poly count.
Microsoft also
to take Corey's pros. Yeah.
Microsoft also gave up on AltSpace VR, which was a startup they had acquired a few years ago. Yeah. So it was a platform. So, I mean, I would be cautious about assuming that Microsoft doesn't have any AR, VR / metaverse platform ambitions forever, but if they do, maybe this seems like a little bit of a reset. And
sure doesn't sound like it. Yeah.
It seems perfectly sensible at this point to redeploy some of that mental bandwidth and resources into AI, which so clearly is going to have so much impact starting at this very moment, as opposed to the metaverse, which is still a maybe at some point and maybe not to the degree we expected kind of thing.
Isn't it risky, though, to chase the flavor of the month? Because, I mean, that's why they chased VR.
True. Although, I mean, I don't know. For all the reasons to be cautious about AI, I think even if it's only 5% as impactful as people expect, that it's going to be incredibly important.
There were a lot of reasons to think VR, AR was not going anywhere from day one. I mean, that 11% of the people who used it were nauseated is a pretty good indicator that there's going to be, this may not be the mass appeal product you hope it will be.
There's some, if you want to have magical glasses that look like these, but have great battery life and fantastic
Well, that's
displays.
Apple's plan, right? Spectacles.
Well, they gave up on that too. I mean, there's some fundamental pieces of technology we have no idea how to build so far.
Right. We know how to do AI.
How do you get the battery life?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Chemistry moves at a glacial pace compared to digital stuff.
That was one of the stories from the week. Mark Gurman saying Apple is going to push off its, spectacle-based AR vision for at least a couple of years to 2025, if not later, because they can't get it working. Even their headset, which they're still rumors are strong, they're going to offer for $3,000 this year, has a battery in your pocket because it's too heavy to wear on your head.
Right.
I think there are some fundamental technical issues with the problem is we all read the same science fiction stories by William Gibson and Neil Stephenson.
We all want this.
We all want to jack into the metaverse.
We all want this.
But it's not sci-fi.
I mean the battery. No, the battery thing is one of the biggest ones. I mean, I've been a proponent of going nuclear for a decade at least.
You want a little nuclear power plant in your head?
I mean, honestly, I would trust it more than lithium ion. Yeah. If you look at the safety record, I honestly would.
Do we have that technology? I know we have pocket nuclear reactors for power, but pocket means
I don't think
the size of this room, not.
I mean, I don't know if we do or not. My point is more like I wish that we'd have been investing more over the last decades in looking at that as a power source than in some of these other things, because I do think that then that, in my mind, that's the only way you can get the long-lasting battery life and the microization that you'll need for these things. But I just don't think it's going to be possible with lithium polymers. I just don't. People who are better at physics and chemistry than me.
I understand, but I'm just not sure people are anxious to wear a nuclear power plant hat.
You're not wrong, but again, I mean, maybe it needs a rebranding. I'm just saying, like, the brand.
Don't call it the nuclear hat. Okay, that's a good. That's a good
don't call
start.
it the nuclear hat. I'm just saying, like, it's a branding thing, but like, I think that the technology, like, that's obviously one of the only solutions that I can think of that we already have, because solar is certainly not going to be fast enough or powerful enough to do that sort of thing.
Our listeners in Australia are probably aware of the fact that the a tiny cesium-137 capsule went missing on its way to Perth this past week. Just one. It's let me see if I can find a picture of it, because it's so small. They're warning the public not to touch it, but it's so small. I don't even know how you would find it. It's about the size of one of those little lithium-ion batteries that you put in your pocket. Here it is. Here's the size next to a Australian something 10 pence piece. I don't know what that is. 6 millimeters by 8 millimeters. If you see it, don't touch it. Don't pick it up.
Don't taste it.
Yeah, it's like, remember, you guys are too young to remember when I was a kid, there were constant ads not to touch blasting caps. Do you remember? None of you remember that. Do you remember that, John?
No.
Blasting caps. That was like, maybe that was a major problem. I know, kids, if you see this, don't touch it. Well, kids, if you see a 6 millimeter by 8 millimeter shiny silver capsule, don't touch it. It could kill you. It could kill you. So do you want to wear that on your head? I don't know.
To Christina's point, though, we haven't seen any real progress in alternate sources for power in a while. I remember at CES about a decade ago, there was like a hall full of portable devices for hydrogen power, basically. So you could have a fuel cell in your laptop or on your phone even. And there was so many different vendors. It seemed like it was just a couple of years away.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing they started popping, exploding in people's pants. And that was probably the end of that. But we haven't really seen anything since then. So certainly solid state batteries are just around the corner. I think we'll see those soon. Those will provide a pretty big step forward in terms of charging speed, discharge speed, and will help to reduce the overall volume of a given capacity of battery. But really, like I said, Leo, chemistry happens slowly, and there really isn't any kind of shot in the dark that's coming soon for portable devices. For cars, supercapacitors and things like that, I think we'll have some big gains in a decade or so, but there's nothing like that coming for smaller stuff.
Yeah. Microsoft's quarter was not great. Revenue is up 2%, profit down 12%. This primarily, I think, due to this PC drop-off. Both below Wall Street expectations. Amy Hood, Microsoft's chief financial officer, said new business slowed in December, but it expects growth to continue to slow in the current quarter, which ends March 31st. On the other hand, I think Microsoft is very well positioned. This OpenAI investment is looking very smart right now. Clearly, if AI is taking off, businesses like Azure are going to do very well. Nobody wants to invest in the storage and the TPU capacity that's required for learning big sets of data. So they do it often in the cloud. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, all benefiting for that. So I think I would be bullish about Microsoft, Christina. I think you're and certainly about GitHub. GitHub passed 100 million developers this week.
Yes. That was very, very exciting news. 100 million developers and a couple years ahead of schedule. So the goal had been 2025. We were able to hit it, early 2023. So very, very exciting about that. And when you kind of look at the trajectory of how many developers have joined the platform, even in going back to 2016, it's really ramped up. And I think it's because was one of the great things is that the definition of developer has changed, I think, in a really important way. And so people who are working on working around code or making contributions that might just not be code focused can still use platforms like GitHub. The kind of the rise of kind of the lower code movement around people who are building business applications and doing other types of things where you see a lot of data scientists and other people doing really innovative stuff. But again, in their mind, 10 years ago, they might have said, oh, I'm not a developer. Now you can be like, no, you are. The stuff that you're doing might not be code in a traditional sense, but it definitely, is impacting things, or in some cases is absolutely code.
What's the weirdest thing people are using GitHub for? Maybe that's a loaded question. I don't.
No, it's interesting because, people. So
it's not all code. I know novelists and writers use it, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have this product called GitHub Projects, and which is like a kind of project management stuff, and you will see people who will just use it to just manage their life, like to just have it as like a very organized kind of to-do list thing. And that's really cool to see. But as you see, novelists, people who use it for writing, I think that is definitely a really cool way. Then we also see, it used in really interesting ways, like by, people in, NASA and in other organizations. It's interesting to see a lot of the data science stuff is really interesting because you can see people putting their Jupyter notebooks and their other kind of output there. That I think is actually really great. I think seeing notebooks has been such a great feature to happen, I think, in code for a lot of reasons. And as we've gotten better support for that stuff within GitHub, I think that's been a really cool thing to see the data sets and that stuff that people have used. That's really awesome to me because those are things that wouldn't fit with a lot of traditional code things, but is a really great way where we had an incident, I think it was last year, where we got rid of one of our original short URL shorteners. And we did it because the code behind it was really antiquated and it hadn't been upkept. But we had to wind up migrating a lot of the URLs over and kind of keep them working because it turned out that there were a number of academic papers where people had used the URL shortener, which would just go to a GitHub repo in their academic papers. And that's always really interesting to see how many people will put the full data sets and other information of academic papers on GitHub repos. That's always really cool to see.
Somebody has got a OpenAI ChatGPT prompt for a link bait article. Better GitHub with this one weird trick. I think we should write that right now. Somebody will come up with that.
Totally write that.
Somebody I hugely admire, one of the most famous programmers in the world, Peter Norvig. He's a scientist AI scientist at Google. Uses Jupyter notebooks on GitHub. I follow him because I do the Advent of coding problems, and he does these every year. And of course, here's one of the best programmers in the world. This is what a Jupyter notebook looks like on GitHub. He's got cartoons. He's got code that runs. He's got results. I mean, it's amazing. He's even got visualizations in here because Jupyter notebooks, which is just one of many kinds of notebooks, but Jupyter is probably the most popular, allow you to run code and write text so you could do true literate programming. I think this is fantastic. I am so impressed. I think to me, this is a great use of GitHub. I mean, this is actual Python code that runs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's such a great teaching tool. Honestly, like it really is, I think, one of the best ways to teach stuff. And so using that with Advent of Code, and that's beautiful. That's
Isn't that
really,
great?
really cool to see. I love this.
It's marvelous to look at his code because it's a clear, and it is a little terse, but it's very clear and precise and inspired. I mean, this is a guy who speaks code, and it's so fun to look at this. I always wait until after I've tried to solve the problem before I read his posts. He also has got somebody doing cartoons. And all this is a GitHub page. This is a repository, which is pretty darn cool, if you ask me. Anyway, Microsoft, tough quarter, but I think the market rewarded missing its targets with a 4% bump in the stock price because I think of the future of AI, and everybody knew that this PC slowdown was going to hit Microsoft just as much, if not more, because of course they make the operating system for most of these computers. So I think you're at a good company. If I were you, Christina, I would keep that job. Just my advice to you.
I mean, definitely. I that's definitely the plan, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't have everybody is there's uncertainty everywhere, but that is definitely the plan. I definitely feel very lucky to be at GitHub, and yeah.
Well, we love you, and you could always come here if you needed to, but I don't think I could pay you anything like Microsoft pays you. So.
Well, but I appreciate.
Just so you know, bring your shoes. Come on over. Yeah.
I will bring my shoes. I will come to Petaluma. Okay.
What's your new kick? Kicks. What's your hot new kick? Anything exciting?
Oh, okay. So I don't. Yes, actually, I did not. I don't have them in this room with me. They're in the other room. But I went to Vegas last week with my mom. I took her to see Adele last weekend. It was amazing.
Oh, how fun!
Best time.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, my mom has never been to Las Vegas, and I haven't been for a non-work related reason in a really long time.
It's a very different experience, isn't it, when you're not going to the convention center every day, all day?
Honestly, it was like a completely different thing for me. We had such a great time, but we were staying at the Plaza, which is part of the Venetian, and they have a big mall. And then there's like the Wynn and the Encore next door. And anyway, I went into Ferragamo and I bought a pair of Ferragamo sneakers. I will put them in the chats. They are great, but that is my new.
Can I shouldn't. This is gauche of me. How much were they? Can I ask?
Like 800.
Yeah, well, that's not bad. Everything at Ferragamo starts at 800, so you really got a deal, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I got the low end. Well, here's the thing: there was a pair I liked that were a little bit more expensive. They were still within my budget of what I would have spent, but I'm a 5.5, which the salesperson had never seen someone with feet as small as mine.
Tiny little. I have tiny little feet too.
Yeah.
I don't know what that. I feel like I'm just going to fall over in a stiff wind. So yeah. All right. Okay. We're going to take a break. You go get those Ferragamos if you want, because we're going to talk about our sponsor. Thank you, ACI, for sponsoring our studios for the year. ACI Learning, you say, well, I don't know them, but you do know the name IT Pro. For the last decade, our partners at IT Pro have brought you engaging, entertaining IT content to level up your career or your organization. In fact, I think a great many of our listeners are IT Pro members. There are 227,000 people in the IT Pro community. That is a great learning community, many of them Twit listeners. Well, IT Pro has partnered now with ACI Learning, which really expands its reach. This is really good news for all of us. Expanded production capabilities. ACI Learning has expertise in not just IT, and of course IT Pro is the best, but they also have Audit Pro. So audit readiness is a big part of IT these days. They can help you there. They also have a cybersecurity division, which is the best. They have even learning hubs where you can go and learn in person, which for some people, at least part of the time, is a valuable adjunct to the online learning that IT Pro is famous for. One of the most widely recognized beginner certificates, the CompTIA A+ cert. I know many of you in IT, that's where you started, right? That desktop support cert. CompTIA courses with IT Pro from ACI Learning make it easy to go from being kind of a daydreamer about getting that career in IT to actually having a career in IT. Earning those certs is really the most important thing to do to get into an entry-level IT position. You don't have job experience, right? You can't say, well, I did this and this. But if you've got that cert, they know you've got the skills, the qualification, and it gets you started to move on in your field. And that's what IT Pro from ACI Learning is so good at. Tech is one industry where the opportunities now are outpacing growth, especially in cybersecurity. There are more than 1 million open, unfilled jobs in cybersecurity right now. A recent LinkedIn study predicts IT jobs will be the most in-demand roles in 2023. Don't waste time. Get going. This is a career that will reward you. It's fun. You're already interested in technology. About 1/3 of the information security jobs require a cybersecurity certification. About 23% of IT jobs require that, but 1/3 of cybersecurity jobs require a cert. Organizations are obviously very hungry for cybersecurity talent, but they want to know that you've got what it takes. The average salary for cybersecurity specialists, $116,000 a year. ACI Learning's information security analyst and cybersecurity specialist programs can help you get that money. Get certified, get that job. Last year, the global cybersecurity workforce gap grew bigger, not smaller. It increased by 26.2% over 2021. There's a job out there waiting for you. ACI Learning offers multiple cybersecurity training programs that can prepare you to enter or advance within this exciting industry. The most popular cybersecurity certs, not in any particular order, CISSP. I love, and this is the one I want to do, EC Council's Certified Ethical Hacker. I just thought that'd be great to have CEH after my name. Certified Network Defender. There's a cybersecurity audit school. That's a specialty that is going to be in huge demand as people need to prove compliance to customers, to higher-ups, to regulators. Very important job. Learn cybersecurity frameworks. They've got great classes in that, too. When, where, and how you learn makes a big difference. ACI Learning makes it easy. They offer fully customizable training, no matter what kind of learner you are. You know, some people really want to be in the classroom in person. Some people are really more comfortable remote. Some people like it live remote. Some people want it on demand. ACI Learning has it all. Explore what ACI Learning offers with IT Pro, Audit Pro, which includes enterprise solutions, webinars, and their great podcast, the Skeptical Auditor Podcast. They've got practice labs so you can get hands-on just from your own home in a browser. They've got learning hubs where you can actually go in and get in-person instruction. And they've got their partnership program, too. This is really an exciting move for IT Pro. ACI Learning, a great partner. I'm very excited. Tech is the one industry where opportunities outpace growth, especially in cybersecurity. 1/3 of information security jobs require that cert. Get the cert, get the job. To maintain your competitive edge across audit, IT, cybersecurity readiness, visit the website go.acilearning.com/twit. You got that? And please use that so they know you saw it here. That's important to us. Go.acilearning.com/twit. We also have a great offer code. Thank you, ACI Learning. Use the offer code TWIT30 for 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership. 30% off. TWIT30 at go.acilearning.com/twit. IT Pro has been such a great partner for us since they started back in 2013, and we're thrilled to welcome ACI Learning and IT Pro into the family. Thank you for supporting the studio and supporting what we do. We really appreciate it. All right, let's see those kicks, Christina. Christina's new kicks. These are, yeah. What's that logo? Is that Ferragamo? What is that?
I guess so. I'm not even sure. I did like how it looked. And then
cool.
But I really liked the back, which is like this black and white polka dot
dots.
thing.
Yeah.
And again, like, I'm not defending.
Are you ever going to wear them, or are you
these.
Just going to put them on the shelf and sell them to somebody else someday?
Oh, no. I wear my shoes. I don't buy them for the resale value. My foot is so small that
no one's going to buy a 5.5.
No, exactly. Right. Like that's it. There's a very small number of people who are able to wear my shoe size. No, I buy them to wear. I have them on the back wall. Because,
I know. I see them, and I can see the soles are used. You are not one of some people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just puts a shoe on a shelf.
No, I mean,
lets it suffer in silence. No.
I have some friends who do that. That's not me. For me, I'm like, no, shoes are to be worn. Fashion is to be worn. Like, don't hoard it in that way. Because if I spent money, even if it was $50 on a pair of shoes and then never wore it, like, that's a waste.
Yeah, I agree.
You buy it to enjoy it.
Yeah. I am wearing a 49ers jersey, which is now for sale, cheap. If anybody, no, I'm just kidding. But I bought Lisa's birthday's today and our anniversary, so she got a lovely birthday present. But
of course,
I bought her our young star quarterback, the rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. I bought her a Brock Purdy jersey to wear during there's a big game today for those of you.
I learned about that.
Yes, you didn't know at first, no. Sport ball, what is that? So I bought her a Brock Purdy jersey. But see, now, Marie, you tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. I thought, what size should I get? And then I said, I'm getting the small, right? Because if it's too small, that's fine. If I got large, no, that would have been bad. So a little husband tip, start with the smallest size, whether it's a shoe or a shirt. Start with the smallest size. You can always return it and get the next one up, which I'm going to have to do because she's not that small. She is. She's tiny. I thought it would fit. But I guess women's small is pretty small. It's probably, the equivalent of a 5.5 shoe. So I did something really gloomy last night. I watched a movie called To Leslie. Anybody see that yet?
I haven't yet. It's on the list, though, for sure.
No, I haven't.
No spoilers.
Yeah, but everybody started talking about it, and then it got all the nominations.
This is proof that Twitter, for all its problems, still is very powerful. Normally, this time, or actually last month in December, you see, especially in Los Angeles, which is it's a company town, billboards, ads in every magazine, TV ads for your consideration, movies that they want the members of the Academy to vote for, to nominate for Best Picture, Best Actor, because it makes a big difference in box office, right? So there was a tiny little movie. It only made $27,000 at the box office, called To Leslie. The movie company could not possibly afford even one billboard on Sunset Strip for your consideration. But somehow they got every mainstream A-list actor in the world to tweet something just like this. This is Edward Norton. I don't post a lot about film or actor performances. Maybe I should more often, but for those interested in really great acting, I'll share that Andrea Riseborough's portrayal in To Leslie just knocked me sideways. It's about the most fully committed, emotionally deep, and then there's a ... I don't know, maybe there's more. Oh, here it is. Physically harrowing performances I've seen in a while. Just raw and utterly devoid of performative BS. It's tough, but really elegant and compassionate film by Michael Morris, where the emotion is really learned. I happened to catch it, and wow, I was really 3 tweets staggered by the depths she reached. Very rare. Check it out. But turns out it wasn't just Edward Norton. It was pretty much everybody in Hollywood tweeted this. This was a mass Twitter campaign to get this actress, who's frankly not well known, an Oscar nomination. Cate Blanchett, Steven Spielberg, Oprah, happy birthday, Oprah, Meryl Streep, Daniel Day-Lewis, Martin Scorsese. But Brian Rowe pointed this out on Twitter. All used this exact phrase, the greatest screen performance in the history of the cinematic medium. Marie, you work in PR. Do you think that was a coincidence?
And was that the greatest performance in the history of the cinematic medium?
It was okay. There's no lie there. Oh, you watched it too, Ant. It was a really good performance. It was amazing. She got a nomination for Best Actress, beating out some people who everybody thought were shoo-in, including Viola Davis for Wakanda, and I'm sorry, the Queen, right? What was the name of it? Woman King. Queen King. Woman King. Apparently great. I did not see it. And then there was Till, and the actress in Till, who everybody thought both actresses snubbed by the Golden Globes and now snubbed by the Academy. But this very little-known actress with a film that made $27,000 got all of this attention and got a nomination. That's the power of Twitter, right? You didn't need a billboard on
Twitter and
go ahead.
Well, it was Twitter, and then it was also didn't like Ed Norton and some other celebrities, didn't they have like screenings for Academy members in their homes?
So Jennifer Aniston says, "Come over to my house and we can watch this fine movie." To Leslie, who's going to turn that down, right? Distributor Momentum Pictures did not have any money to mount a campaign. Riseborough was not nominated in the Golden Globes or the SAG Awards. It's basically a word-of-mouth campaign. Kicked off 2 days before Oscar voting began, too. It was a late entry.
Very late
10th.
campaign.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, even though obviously it was like, getting the voters to see it, but the Twitter thing, you're exactly right. Like and I followed this stuff for a long time. They didn't have money for a campaign. So this is a really interesting, I think, example of the right connected people stepping up and using social platforms to, highlight something that otherwise would not have been getting the sort of attention. Whether or not, she's going to win or not, it remains to be seen. But that's pretty fantastic. Here's
a tweet by Crazy Cons. He tweets, "Something weird is happening. Here's Mia Farrow. Here's Meredith Vieira. Here's Joe Mantegna." And by the way, all of them say a small film with a giant heart, a small film with a giant heart, a small film with a giant heart. Delay Hill, a small film with a giant heart. I do want to congratulate Mark Maron, who is billed as an executive producer, probably because they couldn't pay him for it.
Right.
But he's a well-known podcaster, does the WTF podcast, famous comedian. I feel like he's one of our own. He has a very large role in it. He's quite good. Didn't you think Mark Maron was good in it, Ant? Do you even know who he is? He was the guy with the beard who did the... Yeah. And then the other guy who was in it is Bubbles from The Wire. And I'm watching this guy, and I'm saying, I know this character. Who is this actor? Remember Bubs in The Wire? He was the kind of strung-out, junkie informer that was actually, you couldn't take your eyes off him when he was on the screen. He's in it as well. Ant, what was your, give it out of 5 stars, how many?
3.5.
3.5. I give it more than that, but it's very grim. It's dark, and then it has I don't want to spoil it for you.
It's just too dark.
But I guarantee you that this suddenly is going to make millions of dollars, right? In streaming, you can stream it on all the major streamers.
And also open up questions.
I'm going to...
Sorry, go ahead, Christina.
No, I was just going to say, I'm definitely going to be streaming it. I meant to watch it this weekend and I didn't have a chance.
I made a point of watching it last night so I'd be ready for today. It's good. I'm glad I watched it. I mean, it's no Wakanda forever, but, it's okay.
And it's raising questions about the ethics of these campaigns. And there are rules about what you can and can't do with these campaigns, but they may not have anticipated the Twitter era and this campaign, which, if it was based primarily on Twitter, didn't cost anything, but was apparently extremely effective.
And it shows you the power of coming over to Kate Blanchett's house is one.
That's the big thing, right?
Yeah. But also,
honestly,
also,
honestly, that's the big thing. The last one I can remember that I guess was similar to this was the campaign for Frozen River with Melissa Leo, and that was nominated for Best Picture, and that was a very small film.
Yeah.
And Melissa Leo was nominated for Best Actress. She won the following year for Best Supporting Actress for The Fighter, and I don't think she would have won had she not, been in Frozen River the year before, even though The Fighter had a very large campaign behind it. I think that Melissa Leo won because of the Frozen River campaign the year earlier. But it's interesting to see, and you're right, Harry, like there are ethical things, but at the same time, they're all using the same language because some PR person sent it to these actors.
There was somehow, or Kate Blanchett wrote to everybody saying, here's a suggested tweet. I mean...
And then everybody just copy pasted and just did the same as, you do the Instagram like influencers, like the Kardashians oftentimes would just copy the entire prompt, including the stuff they weren't supposed to copy, and they post it, on their accounts. But I mean, I don't think this breaks any of the rules. I mean, I think that, you having, if a very famous and influential person decides to have other voters over at their home to watch something, I don't think that breaks any rules. Maybe it should, but I don't think it does,
Or maybe just like everybody knows Andrea Riseborough and thinks she's really wonderful. Now I'm learning she's English, which does impress me more because she didn't play an English character in there. She plays a Southern character. That's
hard.
Yeah, that's hard. She hasn't done a lot. She was in some movies I've heard of but never saw, like Nocturnal Animals and The Death of Stalin, and I don't know. It's an interesting thing. What were you going to say, Harry?
I think I said it.
Oh, you said it already. Okay. By the way, it's the character who played Bubbles in The Wire is Andre Royo. I want to give him credit. I have not seen him ever since, but he plays Royal in the movie. It's worth seeing that for Mark Maron and Andre Royo. If nothing else. And yes, Andrea Riseborough's good. As I'm watching it, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it. I'm thinking, don't do that. Don't do it. I know they're going to do it, but I don't want them to do it. And they did it. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know. That's not a spoiler. Hey, by the way, there are a couple of cool things we didn't mention with GitHub. I just want to mention there's now a Copilot paintbrush, right? That you paint your code. And now you could say, hey, GitHub.
Yeah.
That's wild. So you can...
Which is fantastic. So you can say,
if you've got
GitHub,
carpal tunnel or something, you could just say, hey, GitHub, write this login code for me. I'm too tired. Oh, it wants me to log in. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Hey, GitHub.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Import pandas. Import graph plotting library. Hey, GitHub, insert new line. Get Titanic CSV data from the web and assign it to the variable Titanic data.
Holy cow.
From Titanic data where age is null. Fill null values of column fair with average column values. Drop duplicates from the frame Titanic data. Hey GitHub, new line. Plot line graph of age versus fair column. Change to scatter plot. Show plot. Hey GitHub, exit code mode. Hey GitHub, run program.
Oh my God. That's pretty impressive, that demo right there. It's writing Python code. No typing involved. This is a very common kind of data query for data scientists. And you don't have to type all those brackets and tabs and semicolons. It just does it.
And what the impressive thing with that is that there's been a lot of text-to-speech technology for years that's very good, but it has not worked well with code because that's
so specialized.
Been what it's designed for. And exactly. And like when I was hit by the car 5 years ago, and I broke my wrist, my primary hand, like typing was before I was in a cast when I was kind of in traction was impossible. and it made coding basically impossible. And I was using a lot of text to speech stuff or voice to text stuff rather, and code was the biggest challenge. And so when I looked at Hey GitHub, I was like, okay, not only is it so cool that you can just speak what you want it to do and it can write it the right way in natural language, but the fact is that you can say things like new line, or you can say, import pandas and other things, and it's not getting confused because it's been trained for this specialized thing, as you said, which is really awesome.
Amazing, kind of incredible. Interesting story about ADSB. So I had never heard of ADSB, not being a pilot, but if you heard about the Elon Jet tracker, that's was using ADSB, which is a database. It's actually technically ADSB exchanged. And it was kind of like IMDb or Wikipedia. It was created by users. And the reason it worked is because jet airplanes all airplanes, I guess, have transponders transponding their tail number and their location as they fly around. That's how they know where everybody is. And air traffic control uses it, and I imagine other planes use it. Well, it turns out if you're an enthusiast, you can also have a little receiver on the ground and monitor all the traffic going ahead. And then if somebody were to write a way to aggregate that data onto a map, and you had enough people with those little receivers all over the world, you'd have a pretty good tracking map of all the flights. Well, that's what ADSB exchange was. But, and I say was because it was owned by one person. A lot of people contributed, but Dan Strufert founded the site and was the sole owner of the site, and he sold it to JetNet, which was, by the way, owned by, get ready, a private equity company. And at this point, there is a little rebellion going on, including by the guy who does Elon Jet, who said, I'm not going to use this data anymore, and I'm not going to contribute it to it anymore. It's understandable. I mean, the server costs, the hosting costs were expensive. ADSB Exchange couldn't really monetize very well. It's free to use, but they used advertising, and then they had a kind of higher paid tier. But it's, still an expensive thing to run. And so at some point, Strufert decided that he was going to sell it. Jack Sweeney runs the Elon Jet Twitter account, said, today is a sad day. If you feed ADSB Exchange, we encourage you to stop feeding. ADSB Exchange was founded on the principles of hobbyists, community, not for-profit private equity firms. So it'll be interesting to see. Within a few hours after the sale became public, the 11,000 feeders, 11,000 people running these receivers, dropped significantly to 9,500 people in a span of a few hours. I don't know where it stands right now. I'm not an expert on this, but I'd be very curious to see what happens. One user said, FlightAware, Flight Radar win, Elon wins. All the guys who are out to get us win. So, remember the saga of, Elon Jet and Elon chasing it off Twitter, and he went to Mastodon, and then Elon blocked every Mastodon mention on Twitter. There's a final line in that story. It's kind of sad. Wednesday, they announced that they had been acquired. Kind of like IMDb or CDDB or all these other. Fortunately, nobody's acquired Wikipedia. I hope not. And no one can acquire Mastodon. Again, this is the argument for these distributed places. JetNet is owned by Silversmith Capital Partners. They were acquired last year. The acquisition is the second of what the company anticipates will be several future acquisitions as JetNet expands its data-driven product offerings for the aviation industry. So you got a problem there if you've got volunteers freely uploading this data and suddenly you make a killing selling it and this private equity comes along. You need the volunteers, don't you? Anything to say about that, or should we move on? Oh,
I mean, I'm sort of sympathetic, I guess, to the volunteers. At the same time, the jets tracking stuff, I know it's legal. I'm not arguing the legality at all, because obviously you have to be able to, the FAA has to be able to know what planes are in the air. And I'm not questioning any of that. But I do think the jet tracking stuff is gross. I do.
Yeah. Well, I understand, honestly, I understand Elon's point. I mean, but it's not exactly assassination coordinates. And Sweeney could have done some things to protect Elon, like delaying the tweet by an hour or two to give Elon a chance to move on.
And I'm not saying that it was assassination thing. I think that was the hyperbole. People in fandoms, like teenage girls, have been doing this for years for their favorite pop stars, and it's gross. It was gross then, and they would put stuff on Twitter and on Tumblr and whatnot. It's gross now. I do feel for, I guess, like the aviation enthusiast community who feels like this thing they've been contributing to has now been sold to private equity who will be making money off of it. But at the same time, like, the data's either open or it's not. You know what I mean? Like, you can create your own thing, but I mean, this is public data for a reason. I
remember watching Gaga's movie, and I just watched Taylor Swift's Ms. Americana movie. And the thing that really sticks in my mind is these poor people go out of their doors of their apartment, and at any time of the day or night, there are hundreds of fans standing there waiting for them. They have to have big security guards just to get them to the car, and barriers.
Right.
And I'm starting to read. I'm, much to my chagrin, Prince Harry's Spare, and it's somewhat the similar situation. It killed Princess Diana.
Right. Well, and the way that a lot of the paparazzi finds where the celebrities are going to be is that they track their jets, because a lot of them have, if they own their own jet, then it's registered. If they are simply renting one, then it's harder. But Taylor Swift owns her own planes, and now she's doing the thing, I think, where she hides the registration, which you can do a certain way. People still, her fans are insane, and I say this as a big Taylor Swift fan, but not one who appreciates or encourages any of this, because I think this stuff is just gross and disgusting. The K-pop fans are the same way, where they will literally track exactly where people are at all times to try to know and put it up on the internet, and not realizing, and then they get mad about the paparazzi stalking their favorite stars. It's like, how do you think they're figuring out exactly where they're landing, and then showing up at private airports, or God forbid they're having to fly commercial, showing up literally a baggage claim, outside LAX. That's because people are doing things like this, and they're tracking their every movement. And there's something gross about that. And again, I think I'm not trying to say that everybody, in fact, most of the people part of this community are not involved in that at all. But I do think that, when we have those discussions, and again, I don't think that calling it assassination was in any way correct, but there is this very gross aspect of for high profile people having no privacy, because you have really obsessive people out there who are tracking their every move, and then in turn passing that on to people who are then going to take photos to sell for lots of money.
Yeah. I know that Taylor Swift, let me see if I don't want to jeopardize her safety. I feel bad for her. I feel bad for anybody in this situation. She uses face recognition at her concerts to find the most. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say she did, I think, the last concert. Yeah. I think they said.
Because they know who these most dangerous stalking
although I don't remember showing my face.
So. Yeah. Oh, you don't? Well, but they don't need to. You don't need to walk up to a camera and smile. They see you coming in.
I guess so. I guess. Yeah. I guess I was just in my mind. I remember being at the concert and seeing the signs up, but I don't remember. Obviously, there wasn't anything when you entered where you had to scan your face.
No. They just look at the crowd. They just watch you coming in, and they have face recognition data for people who are considered threats. And I'm more power to her. I don't blame her for doing that. I don't blame her people for doing that because her life is at risk. It's a shame she has to, but it does raise some interesting questions. So there were big signs saying, "What you're being your face is being captured?
Yeah, something like that. I took a photo of it. I'll have to find it. I don't have it off the top of my hand, but I did take a photo of it when I saw it at the Seattle Reputation Tour concert. I'm sure it was at the one that I saw in New Jersey as well. This was in 2018, so which was the last time she toured. But yeah, there was something like that that said that that they're your photo may be used by being at this concert, like you've consented to your photo being used in a database for whatever the purpose might be. Which fair enough if it's something that if you want to attend this concert, you have to make that trade-off. There are plenty of people I'm sure who'd be like, well, I will never go to a concert that does that. But I obviously, so many people have my face. My face is in so many databases. I wanted to see the concert.
So apparently they put rehearsal clips up on a kiosk, and then people would go over and look.
That's what it was.
They would go over and look at the clips.
What it was.
Sneaky.
And there was
That's
a camera inside the display taking their picture.
Right, but that's what it was. And then, it was this kiosk thing. And then there was a sign on the kiosk that told you what it was doing.
Oh, my God. The images, this is from Rolling Stone, which broke the story. This is back in 2018. The images were being transferred to a Nashville command post where they were cross-referenced with a database of hundreds of the pop stars' known stalkers. Everybody who went by would stop and stare at it, and the software would start working. and presumably, if you were one of those people, some big burly guy with a walkie-talkie would walk over and say, "Excuse me, sir." Now, this is relevant to today because it's been happening, and we've talked about this before, at Madison Square Garden. The Dolans, who own MSG, and Madison Square Garden owns a bunch of other stuff.
Radio City Music Hall.
Well, this happened first at Radio City Music Hall. A mother with her Girl Scout troop went to see the Rockettes for the holiday show and was informed as she enters, "Nope, sorry, lady, you can't come in." Had to wait out front while her girls watched the Rockettes. Found out it was because she works for a law firm that has a lawsuit with MSG. And apparently the Dolans have been doing this. MSG has been doing this to any lawyer that has anything going on with MSG. They have face recognition, and they will lock you out.
Or just if you work for a law firm that also has other lawyers suing them.
The mom said, "I don't know anything about this. This is not I'm not suing him. Sorry, lady." And of course, James Dolan, who gave a fairly fiery interview about this a couple of days ago, says, "That's all right. It's a private institution." To which the liquor licensing authority in New York says, "Well, not exactly. Because when you have a liquor license, there are caveats, covenants, things you agree, including being open to the public. You can't have a private liquor license." So there is some question. In fact, New York State Attorney General Letitia James is paying attention, investigating. New York State legislatures have introduced a bill that would ban face recognition in sporting events. And now the Liquor Authority, the New York State Liquor Authority, SLA, is saying your liquor license is in jeopardy. Dolan gave an interview Thursday, a fiery, I'm told, I didn't watch it, interview with Fox 5, Channel 5 in New York, in which he defended his family's right to block anybody we don't like from coming in. And, of course, Madison Square Garden is the home of the Rangers hockey team, and a couple of lawyers. Now, we mentioned earlier, you don't want to get on the bad side of lawyers because they will sue your ass. And I think there probably will be some lawsuits. Dolan says, "Well, all right, Liquor Authority, you watch. I'm gonna pick a day, and we're not going to serve any beer at a Rangers game, and then see how you feel." Whoa.
And I think he said he was going to give the phone number of the Liquor Authority.
Yeah, you call
him.
Yeah, he doxed him. He actually gave out the number on the TV.
It seems incredibly petty and a great way to get bad publicity without really accomplishing much of anything.
So I understand why Taylor might do this at her concerts. In fact, it's sad that she has to, but I understand why. I don't think James Dolan really has to block lawyers from coming into Rangers games.
No, No, I mean, I think it's one thing to be like, okay, we have, I mean, she's had people like show up in her house, like when she's not there and like take showers. And I mean, it's awful. And she has very serious mentally disturbed people after her. Totally get that. It's been another thing to be like, oh, you work at a law firm that's involved in litigation with my company, so you're banned from entering the premises. I mean, that's really concerning that you have like the facial data of everybody who works at that law firm. Like that's concerning right there. And then B, it's like, really? So they can't even come see the Rockettes? Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Here is, we don't have to zoom in on this, but here's a little thumbnail from YouTube of Dolan holding up the name of the SLA's chief executive and his phone number and his email and his picture saying, I'm going to put this wherever we sell alcohol. I'm going to put this up in the stadium.
I can't imagine all that many people siding with him.
Wow.
No.
New York State Senator who represents the part of Manhattan that Madison Square Garden is in described Dolan's interview, according to the Washington Post, as a public meltdown, called him the poster child of privilege, who receives, and this is an important point, a $43 million a year tax break from New Yorkers, as is often the case with these big sports venues.
Yes.
Sometimes face recognition gone wrong. Sometimes, most of the time. Again, Taylor Swift seems to me the only actual legitimate use of this because you got to protect Tay-Tay. I'm sorry. That's just, not okay. She's all right. She's doing okay, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's a good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. That's the thing now. Everybody has to do this. Selena Gomez, Gaga, I don't know if she started. Madonna started it, didn't she? And then Gaga.
Yeah, she really did. It was Truth or Dare. Yeah.
Truth or Dare. With Warren Beatty hanging around the dressing room, saying, "What are you doing tonight?
Amazing.
You want to go out after the show? You want to have a drink? You want to hang out? Huh?" All right, one more break. Then we are going to wrap this puppy up. But it's such an important advertiser. I want to tell everybody, you gotta get Bitwarden. Bitwarden is my choice for a password manager. I know a lot of you followed our advice. I'm sorry, and went with the other guys. That hasn't ended up so well. We didn't know, honest. If you're looking for a better password manager, can I say, in my experience, open source is always the way to go with anything like this because you know exactly what's going on. If at any point you don't like it, you can fork it. In fact, Bitwarden, a lot of people run their own server with the Bitwarden vault, so it's not on Bitwarden's vault. You can do that with your individual account. That's awesome. And Bitwarden has its own server software, but there's a beautiful Rust fork of it called Vault Warden you can run if you don't want to run that. That's the beauty of open source. Bitwarden is the only open source cross-platform password manager you can use at home, at work, or on the go. It's trusted by millions. Steve Gibson, I think he knows Bitwarden's a sponsor, but I know Steve is a pretty independent thinker. He was the guy who turned us on to LastPass in the beginning. He moved off LastPass to Bitwarden as well. I've been on Bitwarden for several years. We had been using LastPass Enterprise. We are moving now to Bitwarden Enterprise. Russell started that process this week. I'm really excited about this. And I love it because Bitwarden lets you be an individual. I have my individual account, but you can also have an enterprise account. Now, let me explain. Of course, you want to know this. All your data in Bitwarden's vault is end-to-end encrypted. They don't have access to it. Not just the passwords, but unlike some other companies, all the metadata, the sites you visit, when you visited them, all that stuff is encrypted, just like your passwords. That's really important. And of course, Bitwarden doesn't track your data in the mobile app. All it does is crash reporting. If you don't like that, this is where open source is beautiful. Get the F-Droid installation. You won't even have that. Bitwarden's open source. It invites anyone to review library implementations at any time on GitHub. You can review their privacy policies at bitwarden.com/privacy. You can protect your personal data and privacy. You can add security to your passwords. Use Bitwarden to generate strong, randomly generated passwords for every account. If you go to the Bitwarden site, you'll see they have a password strength meter. You can try out your passwords there safely, see how strong it is. They also have, and I love this feature, a username generator. So, when you create an account, you use your email and a password. Well, what if the email you used was completely unique and never used before and will never use again? That's what the username generator does. It generates unique usernames for every account, stores them, and you still want to get those recovery emails. So what they do is they work with the big 5 integrated email alias services. Our other sponsor, Fastmail, is one of them. Simple login, a non-ADDI, Firefox Relay. They just added DuckDuckGo. So you still get the email, but you use an obfuscated address so the company doesn't have your address. This is a great way to increase the security and to make sure that every single login is unique and is never used again. Keep your main email address out of the databases too, right? I do that too. I think it's a great reason to use it. It integrates beautifully with Bitwarden and those services. And for your business, we're very happy. We're moving to Bitwarden for Business. It's fully customizable, adapts to your business needs. There's a team organizations plan that's $3 per month per seat. There's an enterprise organization plan. That's the one we're going to, $5 a month per seat. It's great. You can share data with privately with coworkers across departments of the entire company. People share passwords. We know that. They write it on a piece of paper and they say, "Here, Marie, here's the password to the Wi-Fi." No, don't do that. Use Bitwarden. You can securely share those passwords. And if you've got a Bitwarden individual account, as I do, it's very easy to integrate your individual account with the organizational account without crossing that barrier. So your passwords are still separate, but you only have one login and there's all your passwords. There's also, of course, the basic free account, unlimited, free forever, unlimited passwords. I think the $10 a year for premium is worth it just to support Bitwarden. I'm a big fan. I've been doing that for a couple of years. Family organization option. If you've got a family, you want to get them all on Bitwarden, up to 6 users. Total cost $3.33 a month, $3.33 a month. I think that's worth it as well. And of course, it makes it's so easy to import from any other password manager. Export out of it, import into Bitwarden. I hear from everybody, well, that was easy. That was easy. The only hard part is changing all those passwords that other company let out into the open. Bitwarden, trusted by millions of individuals, teams, and organizations worldwide. It's the only open source cross-platform password manager you can use at home, on the go, or at work. They've got a command line version for Linux. Open source is a beautiful thing. Get started with a free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user. Bitwarden.com/twit. I think the world is converging. I think the world has said, you know what? This is the way to go. It's open source, baby. Bitwarden.com/twit. Highly recommended. We thank him so much for supporting our show. When Bitwarden called, I said, yes, I will do your ads. I will happily do your ads. Hey, we had a lot of fun this week on Twit, and you know what we did? Because we were so worried some of you might have missed some of the exciting moments, we've made this mini movie for your consideration. Watch. I hereby verify that I, Leo Laporte, like the script to create an overdubbed version of my voice. Why do you want this, Anthony?
No idea.
What the hell? What the hell? Well, hey, it's AI Leo Laporte, the AI tech guy. This week on Twit, Mac Break Weekly. Jason has his reviews of the new Apple hardware. We'll talk about that.
It's our first Apple Silicon, boring speed bump release, right? Where, not that they're bad, they're remarkable computers. They're just not particularly new. They're just what you expect from last year or from 2 years ago, I guess, except faster.
This week in Google, Richard Hay is here. He is the face of all of those layoffs. Google cutting 12,000 jobs.
Richard, I had breakfast with a friend at Google's by happen, and he said that his boss has hundreds of employees and didn't know.
Yeah, my boss, I just had a meeting with him on Tuesday, and there was no inkling of anything like this on the horizon, right? So the decision was made on a whole nother level.
Tech News Weekly.
The Taylor Swift saga continues. Live Nation, Ticketmaster, and a whole lot of angry Swifties.
When Senator Blumenthal says that Ticketmaster needs to look in the mirror and says, "It's me, I'm the problem, it's me." Like, you don't expect those kinds of jokes to happen at a Senate hearing. There are diehard Swifties that are watching this hearing, and these aren't people that are typically like, yeah, let me tune in to senate.gov/whatever.
Right. It's me. Hi, I'm the real Leo. It's me. Okay. It still has a way to go, I think. But that was pretty good. Thank you to Anthony Nielsen, who snuck in here. So just read this, if you don't mind. And boy, that's scary. That's terrifying. So, Christina, it's completely coincidental, but not one, but two Taylor Swift stories in one episode.
No,
just for you,
which is very exciting. Just for me. I should point out that if anybody, I'm going to put a link in it, both in the Discord and in the IRC. I found this week thanks to Mastodon, thanks to Jeff Atwood from Coding Horror, who there's a mashup of "Where's My Mind" from the Pixies and "Antihero" from Taylor Swift, and then it's edited to include both Fight Club and the Antihero music video. The bass line fits perfectly. It's one of the best mashups I've heard in a long time. And B, the video editing is superb. So if you're a fan of Fight Club and Taylor Swift, which I know is a Venn diagram, which might just be me, this is everything you've ever wanted in your life. It's fantastic.
Small group of people.
But it's so good.
There was actually, we didn't do it as a story, but Alex Lindsay sent me a link to a Billie Eilish song that somebody used AI to replace Billie Eilish's voice with Ariana Grande's voice. Have you seen that?
Huh.
I probably can't play it. Probably shouldn't play it. Let me see if I can find the link. It's on YouTube. It's the song is Happier Than Ever. Should I play it? Do I get taken down if I play a Billie Eilish song with Ariana Grande singing it?
I don't think so.
Who would sue?
Hang on, let me ask my AI lawyer over here. What's
I was going to say.
Hang on.
It's interesting because it gives you some idea of what can be done. Let me play it. What could possibly go wrong? Is that weird? Because I don't know the Eilish song.
Oh my God. No, I do. This is amazing.
It really sounds like Ariana Grande.
It really does.
Ariana never sang those words, and I guess they just took a Billie Eilish audio and applied Ariana Grande's prosody to it or something like that. And go ahead, YouTube, sue me.
I did ask the AI lawyer, and it says it is possible to get sued for playing an AI revision of a song on YouTube if the revision infringes on someone's copyright. Copyright laws vary by country, but in general, creating an AI revision of a song that incorporates substantial parts of the original song without permission could be considered copyright infringement.
So go after this
Leo.
Tears Hero guy, not me, okay? He's the guy who did this. That's kind of wild. I think we're going to see AI This is, I'm happy because I was tired of saying things like Elon Musk ruins Twitter again. And I'm looking forward to talking more about what AI can do.
What AI can ruin from now on.
Yeah, let AI ruin it. Nobody will defend AI, I'm guessing. Tim Stevens, I appreciate all you do, and I'm so glad that you have landed successfully at Substack, timstevens.substack.com. Now, we got to get you to write more for it, right? How long have you been doing it?
I launched a couple weeks after I left CNET, so I've been trying to do about a post a week, give or take. But that's really just kind of a place for me to air my thoughts, that kind of thing. You can definitely check me out on Jalopnik, Road and Track, Motor Trend, TechCrunch, a bunch of other places as well. I've been really fortunate to have a lot of great assignments, and there's a lot more good stuff coming up too.
Good. I'm really pleased. It's always great to see you. I'm sorry you didn't get to do any ice racing this year.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. Did you do any ice fishing? That's the question.
None of that either.
No. Okay. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. Christina Warren, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for bringing your shoes, your tiny feet, and your brilliance to this show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry if we're having audio or video problems, but this has been great. It's been great being on with Harry and Tim, and always love talking about stuff. Always love being on Twit.
Yeah. She's a senior developer advocate, the senior developer advocate at GitHub. Mastodon.social @film_girl, our newest Mastodoner. And Tim Stevens is on Mastodon Social as well. Tim Stevens at Mastodon Social. Harry McCracken, you're also on Mastodon, but you're on the San Francisco Bay Area Mastodon.
SFBA.social.
That's awesome. /Harry McCracken. Technologizer, global tech editor at Fast Company.
Can I plug my newsletter again?
Yes.
I have a new newsletter called Plugged In. You can either go to fastcompany.com and click on the hamburger menu and look for newsletter, or just Google Fast Company newsletter and you'll see how to sign up. And it comes out every Wednesday morning.
And I really enjoy it. I mean, I've always enjoyed your writing because you have the thing that's great about you. You have a unique, and I think well-informed take on what's going on in tech. You have you've been doing this a long time.
I try at least.
And you have a voice. I mean, who else would write "Big Tech's layoff binge stinks" as a headline? If Macs get touchscreens, Apple's age of intransigence really is over. How many writers do you know would used the word intransigence in a sentence?
I actually thought it over, and I'm sure if I asked Grammarly, they would have told me, no, people don't know this word.
I like it. If ChatGPT doesn't get a better grasp of facts, nothing else matters. I agree. And 9 tech products you found essential in 2022. All of that and more at the new Plugged In newsletter at Fast Company, fastcompany.com. Just look for Plugged In the hamburger menu. And thanks for bringing Marie. It's great to see you, Marie. I appreciate it. We thank all of you for joining us. We do this show every week, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC on a Sunday afternoon. It's the best way to spend your Sunday with us if you want to watch it live at live.twit.tv. If you're doing that, join us in the chat room, irc.twit.tv. All you need is a browser. But if you have an IRC client, if you're an old school kind of person, you can also use that. We have a Discord, thanks to our fabulous Club Twit members. Club Twit is $7 a month and gives us a little bit of a financial boost, which these days we kind of need, but it also gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows, access to the Discord, where you can find all sorts of fight things. Oh, this is the Fight Club thing. I might play this after the show so we don't get taken down. Christina's
Absolutely, but it's very good.
Put that in there. See, she's in our Discord. You also get shows that we don't normally put in the regular feeds, like Micah Sargent's Hands on Macintosh. Paul Thurrott does Hands on Windows. Coming up in a couple of weeks, Win2 Dow's Fireside Chat. She's, of course, the host of All About Android. February 10th, Daniel Suarez joins us. His new book is coming out in just a couple of days, and we will be talking about critical mass with Daniel. And if you're in the club, you'll get to ask him questions directly, so that's great. Samit Bulls, Samit, our car guy, will be talking March 2nd. Stacy's Book Club, we've decided on a book, Sea of Tranquility. Oh, look, Victor's going to do an inside Twit chat. One of our favorite editors, Victor Bognot, will be doing that. So Aunt Pruitt, our community manager, has been putting together a lot of events. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the 92nd Street Y for the internet. Come on by. Join the club. $7 a month. Look at all you get. twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time. Another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.
Amazing.
Doing the Twit.